I was happy and making good money. You owe $30,000. I was shocked when my credit card company called me on the phone. What? There's no card? After that, I stopped the payment right away. My husband called me a million times while he was away. I got it all and did something about it. I am 29 years old, and my name is Haley. I work for a company now as a boss. Christopher is my husband. We met in college and are the same age. This year marks the 3rd year that we've been married. It seems like a lot of people around me quit their jobs when they got married, but I'm still writing this. I earn more money than my husband. We don't talk about it, but I worry about our future when my husband's only source of income is gone. I'm sure he does too. My husband, on the other hand, is not a pimp. We each have our own pocket, and we split the cost of living 50-50. I can spend the rest of the money however I want. This meant that I wasn't too unhappy with the fact that we were working together and that our lives were going well. Oh, I guess I spent a little too much this month too, I thought as I looked at the debit notice email on the train ride home. That being said, I should look again to see if any services I haven't used in a while are still set up. That's what I thought as I closed the email. That time will probably never come. I couldn't remember the password to get to the page where I could see my credit card bills. It's tough to find the drive. I can't get through to the help center. On the world's end, why should people who are working call the call center when it's only open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday? There's no doubt that the lines are long at lunchtime. I'm still signed up for a service, though, so I should be okay. In other words, the call center will call you if the monthly amount is more than $10,000. You're not wrong when you say that this confidence that everything will be okay has made me less likely to call the call center. But shopping online takes my mind off of work worries. When I opened the package and saw the package inside, I felt better, but only for a short time. I'm at home. As soon as I opened the door to the living room, my mood went from good to bad. There are socks on the ground and empty cans on the table. There was a phone and a sweater on the couch. No, is that my husband in a sweatshirt? Yes, my husband doesn't clean the house at all when he gets home. Instead, he is purposely destroying the house. I point my phone at the couch and say, "Hey, socks and empty cans." This is what I get. It's just a small thing to throw away and wash. Don't be so mad. You might do it. You could do it if you get home early. Why don't you clean the house or make me dinner? He said the next thing when I said S and say, I'm so tired when I get home. I also have to deal with the store's lunch bag. I'm tired too. I said with a shrug, if you don't clean the house, you should work and do the work or the chores, whichever you like better. Oh, please be quiet. I understand. I understand. And the fact that he said it twice showed that he wasn't feeling it. I gave my husband a mean look. My husband looked at his phone the whole time he left the living room and didn't even notice how I felt. It's not fair that I do more chores and work than he does. Is that a bad thought? I don't think so. But I'm not sure if I went too far. Because my husband is sometimes crazy, I was afraid he would get stubborn and make the house even messier. But contrary to what I thought, what I said that day seems to have made a difference. Yes, my husband has been coming home late ever since, even on days when I got home before him. He began to show up. It looks like he was working extra hours. He must have changed his mind. Because I was so happy, I worked harder than ever on my tasks. My husband is busy, so I have to clean the house. I didn't think about the fact that my husband was doing that at the time. Yes, it's Christopher's room. He hasn't cleaned it in a while, and that day I got home before my husband did. It had been a while since I had been in his room. As expected, there were a lot of empty bottles and cans lying around. Throw this stuff away. Oh, even on the bed. Then I looked at the bed and thought, what is this? There was a package wrapped in gift wrap. That bag was my favorite brand. I had to shine a light on it because I couldn't see it well. Oh, could it be my birthday present? Yes, my birthday was the following week, even though it hurt. I chose to act like I hadn't seen the package and leave it alone. But on my long-awaited birthday, the box never showed up. Hey, do you know what day it is today? Oh, it's your birthday, right? Yes. Did you forget? No, I remember, she said. Aren't you happy about something? Didn't I give it to you last year? What did you do? You know, you're old enough to be honored. My husband spit that out without a care in the world and went to his room. Then what do you mean? It was that box that made me feel uneasy from that day on. Right then, something took place. My husband said all of a sudden, "This is it. I'm going on a work trip to another country next week." What? A business trip to another country? Had to raise my voice. That's not how I remember your business being. You've never been on a business trip outside of the United States, let alone within the country, have you? Then my husband said, "They gave me this assignment because I've been doing well and deserve it." Oh, you mean? He told me I could believe him if I hadn't seen the box, but I couldn't accept what my husband said at that time. I was scared to go into his room on the day of his business trip after seeing him off early in the morning. I then checked under the bed. There wasn't a package there. I was sure. This isn't a business trip abroad, right? I was able to move my heavy body to work with this feeling in my heart. I was still not in a fit state to do any work, though. Several times, my hand stopped. I kept thinking about my phone and what my husband had said and done. "Hey, are you okay? What? You look like your mind is not in your body today," I asked. "Oh, yeah. I just didn't get enough sleep." As I made this light-hearted excuse, my phone started shaking. On the screen, a strange number was shown. It's not often that I answer a call from a number I don't know, but I had a bad feeling about this one, and did. "I'm sorry. I need to go for a while." "Yes, ma'am." I took the phone outside and hit the answer button. It was the credit card company's call center. I kept telling myself, "Oh no, it's not my husband, and oh well. I need to give out my password," and a lot of other things were all going through my mind at the same time. What the heck was the job requirement? The person who answered the phone gave me the answer right then and there. "This is our debt protection service calling because you have settled more than $10,000. $10,000. I was shocked by what I heard, but what the operator said next made me hold my breath even more. "Yes, it costs $30,000, I said. "That's not possible." "Wait a second." I quickly went back to work and looked in my wallet. It was no longer there. "That's the card I meant to put there," she said. I put my phone back in my ear. "Pardon me, may I halt that transaction?" "Yes, I think it's still true, so you can stop it." Thank goodness. It made me feel a little better. No, that's not the end of it. I kept going. "And please take care of the stolen card. Right now, I don't have my card with me." I said, "Yes, sir, I will do it right away." Even though I didn't understand, I did what the operator asked and was able to finish the process. I then hung up the phone. The heartbeat in my chest didn't stop for a while after I took the phone call. "I'm sorry, I'm not ready to talk. I'm not able to work. I'm sorry, but I need to go." Early, it seems my credit card was stolen and almost misused, and I've got a lot of things to deal with. I got off track and called my boss. I had a lot of worry at work, and my boss was okay with me leaving for the day. I grabbed the train quickly, and when I looked at my phone, I saw that my husband had called me a million times. It was like he was saying he was the bad guy. I ran home quickly. I quickly took off my shoes, set down my bag, and went to my husband's room. It was on his desk, so I opened it up and looked at the search history. The first thing on the list that caught my eye was a luxury cruise and a travel plan for two. I wasn't asked to go to that event. I looked at the destination and was sure it was the work trip my husband had talked about. He could no longer call it a work trip. I looked through my old emails. That's it. That's it. The name of the person is written there. Mario. What the heck is this woman? I was going to hit the keyboard out of anger, but instead I looked at what I thought was proof in a rough way. My phone wouldn't stop ringing while I checked. Oh my God, shut up. Oh yes, and while I'm at it, I'll use the password I got from the call center earlier to check my credit card usage history. I went to my page and looked through my records of uses. What? What is it? As I scrolled through, my mouth kept getting wider and wider. I forgot about a payment. After that, the money was paid for that brand of bag. Yes, it all made sense. In short, Christopher paid off his mistress Rio with my credit card and even took a trip abroad that he said was for work. Oh no, I don't want to boo. Boo. After several calls, I finally picked up the phone with all my might. What? You finally picked up after calling over and over. The credit card doesn't work. When my husband spoke, he was already talking about the card. Whose? When I asked him directly, he mumbled. You ask whose? Yes, but I don't have a credit card. That is, you took my credit card, right? My husband got antsy while I worked. No, that's not theft. I took it from someone. When you're abroad, it's easier to use than cash. When I'm on work trips, I use it for many things. Work trips. That's correct. What if it gets in the way of my work? It was meant to look like my husband was on a work trip, but I told him what I meant. What about a luxury cruise? What? Why do you want to know that? Well, that's business entertainment. A fun time for Rio? Why do you need to talk about Rio? Was she happy with the designer bag? What are you going to say? Did you just call Rio in a nice way? Do you really want to act like you don't know her? What? What do you want to say? I understand everything. I know that you tried to spend $30,000 on a luxury cruise and a vacation package for couples. I also know that you have been using my credit card to pay Rio a lot of money. My husband said twice, as if he wanted to start over. I understand. After I told him what I said. I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry, but I can't go home until you activate the credit card. Why are you acting that way? Do you think it will go away if you just say sorry and admit it? And friend, please spend the rest of your life at your resort. My husband was about to say something, but I hung up the phone instead. The phone started booing right away and kept booing. I turned off the call because it was too loud and making me crazy. Finally, the email said that the return trip would be at noon 3 days later. I called the company right away and decided that I would finish everything in 3 days. As a first step, I had to get everything out of the house. It was the second day that I told my in-laws what happened. Took the divorce papers and my husband's computer with me. When my in-laws saw my story and all the proof, they were angry. They said they were sorry and promised to get a divorce, pay me $113,000 in alimony, and return the money he had spent. Then, in no time, it was time for my husband to go back to Japan. I got a call early that evening from my in-laws telling me that our divorce papers had been received safely. To my surprise, my ex-husband had only taken the credit card and not any other money. The woman had given him $30,000 instead. As you might expect, she was very angry. She changed her ticket without permission before the return date and went back to Japan before him. I asked myself why she didn't just take the plane ticket and visa from my ex-husband and leave for Japan. While I was listening to the story, I thought about how when my ex-husband got back to Japan, my things were gone from my house and my phone wouldn't connect. So he ran to my in-laws' house. He got in a lot of trouble there and had to write divorce papers. In other news, The woman is now also asking for her $30,000 back, and the ex-husband is rolling his eyes up into his head. After he paid them back once, they made him live like a junior high school student with a 20-hour curfew while they watched over him until he paid the whole amount back. I finally made a $9,000 claim against the cheating wife after getting information from my in-laws about what had happened and how to reach them. This ended the problem. When I went back to work the next day, many of my bosses and coworkers were worried and called me. "Hey, are you okay? I'll listen to the story if it's okay with you. Say thank you. I'm thankful to work for such a friendly company. Every once in a while, I'll buy you a drink. Let's get a drink. It's really just a game of whining. Thanks a lot." As I drank the beer, I poured all of the past into the center of my mind. I love it. From now on, it looks like only good things will happen. Yes, that's right. Haley.
The first time I heard my mother-in-law call me a gold digger, I was standing outside her study with a tray of freshly brewed jasmine tea. The door was slightly ajar, and her words cut through the air like ice. "That girl is nothing but a social climber." Geeta's voice dripped with disdain. "Did you see how she fumbled with the chopsticks at dinner? Embarrassing. My son could have married anyone, and he chose her." My hands trembled, nearly spilling the delicate porcelain cups. "I'm Sabrina, and 6 months ago, I married into the prestigious Patel family. Coming from a modest background where my parents worked multiple jobs to put me through college, I thought marrying Dawson would be my fairy tale ending. Instead, it became the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. Darling, are you all right?" Dawson's warm hand touched my shoulder, making me jump. The tea sloshed dangerously close to the rim. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I forced a smile, steadying the tray. "Just bringing your mother her afternoon tea." "Let me." He reached for the tray, but I pulled back. "No, I want to do this. It's important to me." What I didn't say was that each small gesture was another attempt to win Geeta's approval, another brick in the wall of acceptance I was desperately trying to build. I knocked on the study door, interrupting what sounded like a heated conversation between Geeta and her brother Stuart. The room fell silent. "Come in," Geeta called out, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. I entered, placing the tray on her mahogany desk. "I thought you might enjoy some jasmine tea, Mother." Stuart smiled warmly at me, but Geeta barely glanced up from her papers. "Just leave it there. And Sabrina? Next time, bring the blue porcelain set. This one is common." My cheeks burned. The set I'd chosen was a wedding gift from my parents. "Actually, I quite like this set," Stuart interjected, picking up a cup. "It has character. Not everything needs to be inherited or expensive to have value." Geeta's lips tightened into a thin line. "Well, brother, we'll have to agree to disagree on that." As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the papers on her desk. Something about estate shares and signatures. Stuart noticed my glance and quickly shuffled the papers together. Later that evening, I found myself in our kitchen, aggressively chopping vegetables for dinner, when Dawson's sister Nicole wandered in. "Don't take it personally," she said, hopping onto a counter. "Mom's like that with everyone at first." 3 years of dating and 6 months of marriage isn't at first, Nicole." She shrugged. "Look at the bright side. At least you're not at the country club functions yet. That's where she really puts on a show." "What do you mean?" "Oh, you'll see. There's one next week. Mom's already telling everyone how you're adjusting to our lifestyle." Nicole's phone buzzed, and she jumped down. "Just wear something conservative, and maybe practice with those chopsticks." I slammed the knife down. "I grew up using a fork. There's nothing wrong with that." "Of course not." Nicole patted my arm. "But in this family, everything is about appearance. You'll learn." That night, lying in bed beside Dawson, I couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. Our 3-year-old daughter Sadie was sleeping peacefully in the next room, blissfully unaware of the social warfare happening around her. "You're tossing and turning," Dawson murmured, pulling me closer. I overheard your mother today, I admitted. She called me a gold digger. Dawson sighed. Mom's just traditional. She'll come around. Traditional? Dawson, she actively despises me. And what was that meeting with Stewart about? I saw estate papers. Business stuff, he cut me off. Nothing for you to worry about. But there was something in his tone that made me worry more. I'd seen that look before, when he was hiding something significant. Just then, Sadie's cry pierced the night. I started to get up, but Dawson stopped me. I'll go. You rest. As I watched him leave, I caught sight of my reflection in the bedroom mirror. The woman staring back at me looked lost, uncertain. Everything Geeta probably saw when she looked at me. But underneath that uncertainty, I felt something else stirring. Determination. I picked up my phone and texted my neighbor and friend Jillian. Need to talk. Tomorrow? Her response was immediate. Wine and sympathy coming right up. I put my phone down and closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, I kept hearing fragments of Geeta's conversation with Stewart. We need to clean this up before the shares meeting. Something wasn't right in this perfect family, and for Sadie's sake, I needed to figure out what. If Geeta wanted to play games, she'd learn that this common daughter-in-law could play them too. Little did I know, my decision to fight back would unravel secrets that would shake the Patel family to its core. You need to document everything, Jillian said, pouring me another glass of wine. We sat on her back porch, watching our kids play in the yard. Every snide comment, every backhanded compliment, write it all down. I watched Sadie chasing butterflies with Jillian's son. What good would that do? Trust me, I learned this during my divorce. People like your mother-in-law count on others being too polite to call them out. They rely on gaslighting, making you question your own memories. The afternoon sun caught my wedding ring, and I twisted it nervously. Dawson thinks I'm being oversensitive. Of course he does, Jillian scoffed. He grew up with her manipulation. It's normal to him. A shriek of laughter drew our attention. Sadie had fallen, but before I could move, she bounced right back up, giggling. She's so resilient, Jillian observed. Like her mother should be. My phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. Emergency family dinner tonight. Mom's insisting. Wear the blue dress she gave you. I groaned. Speaking of manipulation, what now? Surprise family dinner. Probably another opportunity for Geeta to showcase how unsuitable I am. Jillian's eyes narrowed. You mentioned estate papers yesterday. Could it be about that? Maybe. But whenever I ask Dawson about family business, he changes the subject. That's not right. Jillian set down her glass. You're his wife, not some outsider. Later that evening, dressed in Geeta's chosen blue dress, I entered the dining room to find Stewart already there, deep in conversation with Geeta. The paperwork needs to be perfect, he was saying. One mistake and... They fell silent as I approached. Geeta's eyes swept over me. At least the dress looks appropriate, though your hair could use some work. I think she looks lovely. Zara, Dawson's cousin, walked in behind me. She squeezed my arm supportively. The natural look suits her. Dinner was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Geeta had prepared all of Dawson's favorite traditional dishes, none of which I could properly pronounce. Sabrina, Geeta called out sweetly, would you like me to show you how to make these properly sometime? I know your background didn't expose you to such cuisine. Before I could respond, Nicole jumped in. Mom, Sabrina makes amazing food. Her lasagna last week was incredible. Yes, well, Geeta smiled tightly. I suppose some people prefer simpler dishes. I gripped my fork harder, remembering Jillian's advice about documentation. If only I could record these conversations, prove I wasn't imagining the constant belittling. Actually, Dawson spoke up, I have an announcement. He reached for my hand under the table. Sabrina and I are thinking of renovating the East Wing for Sadie's playroom. The silence was deafening. The East Wing was Geeta's domain. Absolutely not. Gita's voice was steel. That wing has been in the family for generations. We don't need children's toys destroying its character. Mother, it's our house too. Is it? Stuart interrupted, exchanging a loaded look with Gita. Perhaps we should discuss the ownership structure at the shares meeting next week. My head snapped up. What shares meeting? Family business. Gita waved dismissively. Nothing that concerns you. After dinner, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Zara, who was helping me load the dishwasher. You know, she said quietly, you should pay attention to those meetings they keep mentioning. Something's not right. What do you mean? She glanced around before continuing. Let's just say Aunt Gita's been making some interesting moves lately. The estate's ownership isn't as straightforward as everyone thinks. Before she could elaborate, Nicole burst in. Mom's looking for you, Zara. As Zara left, Nicole lingered. Sorry about dinner. Mom's just protective of the family legacy. Protective or possessive? I asked. Nicole's expression flickered. Just be careful, okay? Mom always gets what she wants. Always. That night, I couldn't sleep. Dawson's soft breathing beside me did nothing to calm my racing thoughts. I picked up my phone and started typing. Day 1 of documentation. Called my cooking simple. Dismissed my right to house decisions. Secret shares meeting planned. Something about estate ownership? I stared at the notes, feeling ridiculous yet vindicated. But was written documentation enough? As if answering my question, muffled voices drifted up from Gita's study below our bedroom. The transfer must happen before they realize, Gita was saying. Once the papers are signed. I pressed my ear to the floor, straining to hear more, but the voices became too faint. That's when it hit me. Documentation needed to be more than just my word against hers. I needed proof. Real, undeniable evidence of what was happening behind closed doors. I opened my laptop and typed, hidden audio recorders. As the search results loaded, my hands shook slightly. This was crossing a line, but hadn't Gita crossed several already? For Sadie's future, for my sanity, for the truth. I needed to know what was really going on in this house. And I knew exactly how to find out. The tiny microphone felt heavy in my palm as I stood in Gita's study at 6 a.m., my heart pounding. Everyone was still asleep, the perfect time to plant the first device. I'd ordered 3 professional-grade audio recorders, small enough to hide, but powerful enough to capture clear sound. Just breathe, I whispered to myself, securing the first microphone behind a heavy curtain. The morning sun was barely peeking through the windows as I carefully arranged the fabric to conceal it. I'd chosen my locations strategically, the study, the formal dining room, and the living room, Gita's favorite spots for private conversations. Each recorder connected to an app on my phone, allowing me to listen in real time or play back recordings later. The house creaked, and I froze. Footsteps. Sabrina? Dawson's voice called from upstairs. Where are you? I rushed out of the study, nearly colliding with Nicole in the hallway. What are you doing up so early? She asked, eyeing me suspiciously. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get some water. The lie came easily, too easily. Back in our bedroom, Dawson was getting dressed for work. Everything okay? You've been acting strange lately. I'm fine, I smiled, but my phone felt like it was burning in my pocket. Just adjusting to everything. The first recording came through around noon. I was in the garden with Sadie when my phone buzzed. Gita's voice, crystal clear. Stuart, the paperwork is ready. Once I secure majority control at the meeting, we can proceed with the sale. And Dawson? Stuart's voice was cautious. My son is too trusting. He won't question it until it's too late. My hands shook as I listened. Sale? What sale? Mom! Sadie's voice snapped me back to reality. Look at the butterfly. That evening, I sat in our bedroom, headphones in, listening to the day's recordings. Most were mundane. Household staff discussions, phone calls about charity events. Then, Nicole, dear, Gita's voice crackled through. Have you considered what we discussed? Mom, I can't spy on Sabrina for you. She's family now. Family, Gita scoffed. She's an obstacle, one we need to remove before she ruins everything we've built. The bedroom door opened suddenly. I yanked out my earbuds as Dawson walked in. What are you listening to? He asked. Just music. He sat beside me on the bed. Sabrina, what's really going on? You've been distant, secretive? I stared at my phone, guilt and anger warring inside me. Do you trust me, Dawson? Of course I do. Then why won't you tell me about the shares meeting? About the sale your mother's planning? His face darkened. How do you know about that? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with another recording notification. The sound played automatically through my earbuds, which lay between us on the bed. Gita's voice filled the silence. Once we sell the estate, that girl and her brat won't have any claim to our family's legacy. Dawson snatched the earbuds. Are you recording my mother? I had to know the truth. I grabbed my phone before he could take it. She's planning something, Dawson. Something that affects all of us, including Sadie. By spying? This is illegal, Sabrina. What's illegal is your mother trying to sell our home without consulting us. We live here too. Sadie's growing up here. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing. You don't understand. The estate. It's complicated. Then explain it to me. I stood up, blocking his path. For once, treat me like a partner, not an outsider. A knock at the door made us both jump. Nicole stood there looking uncomfortable. Mom wants everyone in the living room, now. My blood ran cold. Had she discovered the microphones? But in the living room, Gita was all smiles. I've decided to host a pre-meeting dinner next week. All shareholders must attend. Her eyes locked onto mine. Family only, of course. I'm coming, I said firmly. Dear, she smiled sweetly, these matters are beyond your expertise. My wife attends. Dawson's voice was quiet but firm. Or I don't. The room fell silent. Gita's smile never wavered, but her eyes turned to ice. Very well. Do dress appropriately, Sabrina. Later that night, I lay awake, listening to the recordings again. Fragments of conversations painted a disturbing picture. Secret meetings, document transfers, plans for the estate's sale. But one recording stopped me cold. Everything's set, Stewart was saying. The buyers don't know about the tax issue or the property liens. Once they sign? Perfect, Gita replied. And the offshore accounts are ready? I sat up in bed, my mind racing. This wasn't just about excluding me anymore. This was fraud. My phone lit up with a text from Zara. Need to talk. Tomorrow, alone. I know what they're planning. I glanced at Dawson's sleeping form and typed back, Coffee shop on 5th, 10 a.m. The recordings were a weapon now, but I had to be careful how I used them. One wrong move, and I could lose everything. My marriage, my home, my daughter's future. But Gita had started this war, and I intended to finish it. The coffee shop was quiet when Zara slid into the seat across from me, her designer handbag hitting the table with a thud. Her usually perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. Before I tell you anything, she whispered, leaning forward, you need to know that coming to you could cost me everything. I pushed a coffee toward her. I have recordings, Zara, of Gita and Stewart discussing offshore accounts and hidden property liens. Her eyes widened. You've been bugging the house? That's actually brilliant. She took a shaky breath. But it's worse than you think. The estate isn't just being sold, it's being stripped. What do you mean? Aunt Gita's been siphoning money for years. The estate's practically bankrupt, but she's hidden it well. The sale is her exit strategy before everything collapses. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Does Dawson know? Nobody knows except Stewart and the accountants, and now us. She pulled out her phone, showing me a series of emails. I work at the family's bank, remember? These transactions raised red flags, but Stewart buried the reports. A text from Dawson lit up my phone. Where are you? We need to talk. I have to go. I gathered my things. Thank you, Zara. She grabbed my arm. Be careful. If Aunt Gita discovers you know. I found Dawson in his home office, surrounded by papers. His face was ashen. "I've been going through the estate documents," he said without looking up. After hearing those recordings, something felt off. I closed the door. "What did you find?" "Missing funds, unauthorized transfers, Mom's signature on documents I never knew existed." He finally met my eyes. "You were right. Something's very wrong." I pulled out my phone, hands trembling. "There's more you need to hear." For the next hour, we listened to recording after recording. Gita's schemes unfolded like a twisted symphony. Plans to sell the estate to unsuspecting buyers, hidden accounts in tax havens, discussions of how to keep Dawson under control. "I trusted her," Dawson's voice cracked. "All these years." A knock interrupted us. Nicole poked her head in. "Mom's looking for... Are you okay?" Dawson quickly wiped his eyes. "Fine. What does she want?" "She's called an emergency pre-meeting. Everyone's gathering in the study." My heart raced. The study, where my first microphone was hidden. In the study, Gita sat behind her massive desk, like a queen holding court. Stuart stood beside her, while other family members filled the chairs around the room. "As you know," Gita began, "the shares meeting is approaching, but recent events have forced us to accelerate our timeline." My phone buzzed in my pocket. The recorder was picking up everything. "The estate requires modernization," she continued. "We've found buyers willing to take on this burden, allowing us to preserve our family's legacy in other ways." "What buyers?" Dawson stood up. "Why wasn't I consulted?" Gita's smile tightened. "Darling, you've been so busy with your own family." Her eyes flicked to me. "We didn't want to burden you." "You mean you didn't want him to discover the truth?" I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The room fell silent. "Excuse me?" Gita's voice could have frozen fire. I pulled out my phone. "Should we discuss the offshore accounts, or the hidden liens you're planning to dump on unsuspecting buyers?" Stuart stepped forward. "That's quite enough." "No," Dawson cut in. "Let her speak." I played the recording from earlier that week. Gita's voice filled the room, discussing fraud and deception with clinical precision. The color drained from her face. "You've been spying on me? In my own home?" "Our home," I corrected. "The one you're trying to steal from your own son." Chaos erupted. Nicole gasped. Stuart started shouting about illegal recordings. But Dawson's voice cut through it all. "Is it true, Mother?" Gita's mask cracked. For a moment, I saw fear in her eyes. "Everything I did was for this family's preservation." "By committing fraud?" Dawson slammed his hands on her desk. "By stealing from us?" "You don't understand the pressure, the expectations. The shares meeting is canceled," Dawson announced. "And you," he turned to Stuart, "stay away from my family." "You can't do this." Gita stood, trembling. "I am still the majority shareholder." "Actually," Zara spoke up from the doorway, "the bank's fraud department might disagree. I filed the reports this morning." Gita sank back into her chair, her empire crumbling around her. That night, after everyone had gone, I found Dawson in Sadie's room, watching our daughter sleep. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "About the recordings. I never meant—" "Don't." He pulled me close. "You protected our family when I was too blind to see the threat." He kissed my forehead. "But this isn't over. The estate's finances are a mess, and Mother won't go down without a fight. Then we'll fight together." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. I have documents that will ensure Gita never recovers from this. Fred Murray, family attorney." I showed Dawson the message. His jaw set with determination. "Ready to end this?" he asked. I thought of Sadie, of our home, of every snide comment and manipulation I'd endured. "More than ready." Fred Murray's office felt too small for the weight of the documents spread across his desk. The family attorney adjusted his glasses as he pointed to various highlighted sections. "These transfers," he tapped a paper, "all lead back to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Gita's been planning this for years." How much? Dawson's voice was tight. Conservative estimate? $12 million? I gripped the armrest of my chair. That's impossible. The estate is worth considerably more than what's on paper, Fred finished. Your mother-in-law has been undervaluing assets while skimming profits for decades. A knock at the door made us all jump. Zara slipped in, clutching a leather portfolio. Sorry I'm late. The bank's compliance team had questions about the documents I submitted. She pulled out more papers. These are the latest transfer records. Aunt Gita tried to move another $5 million this morning. Did it go through? I asked. No. We froze the accounts. Zara smiled grimly. She's probably discovering that right now. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a recording notification. I put it on speaker. What do you mean frozen? Gita's voice shrieked. Stuart, fix this immediately. I can't. Stuart sounded panicked. They're asking questions about the offshore accounts, about the property valuations. Then destroy the documents, all of them. Fred leaned forward. This recording alone is evidence of attempted destruction of evidence. Combined with the financial records, she'll go to prison, Dawson said quietly. Unless, Fred held up a finger, she agrees to our terms. I frowned. What terms? Full confession, complete financial transparency. She steps down from all family businesses and transfers control to Dawson. He paused. In exchange, we don't press charges. Another recording notification. This time, it was Nicole's voice. Mom, please, just tell the truth, for once. Truth? Gita scoffed. The truth is, I built this family's fortune while your father gambled us into debt. I protected us. By stealing? Nicole shot back. By treating Sabrina like dirt because you were afraid she'd discover your secrets? Dawson reached for my hand as we listened. That girl, Gita spat, knows nothing about sacrifice, about maintaining our position in society. The parties, the donations, the connections. It all costs money. Money you stole! Nicole's voice hardened. I'm done covering for you, Mom. Done. The recording ended. Zara broke the silence. Aunt Gita's hosting a garden party tomorrow. Half the city's elite will be there. Perfect timing for a confrontation, Fred mused. No. I straightened in my chair. Perfect timing for justice. Back home, I found Stuart waiting in the driveway. His usual confident demeanor was gone. Sabrina, he called out softly, we need to talk. About how you helped Gita steal from her own family. He winced. I can help you. There's more evidence. Documents Gita doesn't know I kept. Insurance, you might say. Why would you help us now? Because, he glanced around nervously, she's planning something for tomorrow's party, something desperate. My phone buzzed again. Another recording. I held it up so we both could hear. The party is our chance, Gita was saying. Once the new buyers sign, no one can stop the sale. Not Dawson, not that witch he married, no one. Stuart's face paled. She's going to try to force the sale tomorrow, during the party. The buyers are coming disguised as guests. I studied his face. Why should I trust you? He pulled out a USB drive. Because this contains every transaction, every fraud, every scheme from the past 20 years, including my part in it. His hands shook. I was wrong. About everything. Inside, I found Dawson in his office with Nicole. Stuart gave me this. I held up the USB drive, explaining what I'd learned. Nicole stood up. Mom's getting sloppy, desperate. She called me earlier, trying to convince me to help her one last time. Will you? Dawson asked quietly. No! Nicole's eyes filled with tears. I'm done being her puppet. My phone lit up with a text from Jillian. Saw moving trucks at Gita's private villa. She's packing up. She's planning to run, I realized. After the sale tomorrow, she'll disappear with the money. Dawson's jaw clenched. Not if we stop her first. We'll need help, Nicole said. Other family members who've suspected, but stayed quiet. Zara can rally them, I suggested. And Fred has the legal documents ready. Tomorrow then, Dawson stood. At the garden party. I thought of all the times Gita had belittled me, threatened my place in the family, tried to turn Dawson against me. Tomorrow, she would learn that her perfectly orchestrated world could crumble just as easily as the tea sets she loved so much. My phone buzzed one final time that night. A group text from Gita to all family members. Tomorrow's garden party will be a celebration of our family's legacy. Attendance is mandatory. Formal attire required. If only she knew what kind of celebration it would really be. The morning of the garden party dawned bright and clear. I stood in front of my closet, staring at the dress Gita had suggested I wear. A matronly gray thing that would make me fade into the background. Instead, I pulled out a crimson silk dress that hugged every curve. If Gita wanted a show, I'd give her one. "Mommy, you look like a princess!" Sadie bounced on our bed in her party dress. "You both look beautiful," Dawson said from the doorway. His face was tense. "Jillian's here to pick up Sadie." I knelt before my daughter. "Remember what we talked about? You're having a special playdate today. Because grown-ups are having a boring party," she recited, rolling her eyes exactly like her father. Once Sadie was safely away, the house burst into controlled chaos. Zara arrived first, carrying files from the bank. Nicole followed with a group of family members I'd only seen at formal events, all wearing expressions of grim determination. "The buyers are confirmed," Zara whispered, showing me her phone. 3 men from an investment group. They're arriving at 2. "And the police?" Dawson asked. "On standby," Fred answered, straightening his tie. "They'll move in once we give the signal." The garden filled with guests as the afternoon wore on. I watched from an upstairs window as Gita held court, resplendent in an expensive designer dress, laughing and charming everyone around her. "Ready?" Dawson touched my shoulder. I checked my phone one last time. The recordings were queued up, ready to play through the garden's speaker system. "Ready?" We descended the stairs together, and I felt Gita's eyes lock onto my dress immediately. Her smile flickered for just a second. "Darling!" She air-kissed my cheek. "That's quite an attention-seeking choice." "I learned from the best." I smiled sweetly. She gripped my arm, nails digging in. "Don't make a scene today. This party is important." "Oh, I know exactly how important it is." I spotted the buyers, 3 men in expensive suits, trying too hard to blend in. Stuart was leading them toward Gita's private study. "Now!" I whispered into my phone. The garden speakers crackled to life with Gita's own voice. "Once the buyers sign, we'll transfer the money offshore. They'll never know about the liens or the debt." The party fell silent. Gita froze, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. "What is this?" she hissed. More recordings played. Her conversations about fraud, about hiding money, about destroying evidence. Each revelation landed like a physical blow. "Security!" she shouted. "Shut off those speakers! They won't help you." Nicole stepped forward. "Not this time, Mother." The buyers emerged from the study, faces dark with anger. "Is this true? Are you trying to defraud us?" "Of course not!" Gita laughed nervously. "This is just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I pulled out a tablet, displaying the financial records. "Like these transfer records? Or these offshore accounts?" "You!" She pointed at me, voice shaking. "You did this. You destroyed our family." "No, Mother." Dawson's voice cut through the chaos. "You did that yourself." Police officers began entering the garden. Fred stepped forward with documents in hand. "Mrs. Patel," he announced formally, "you have a choice. Sign these papers transferring control of all family assets to your son, or face criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement." "You can't prove anything," she snarled. "Actually," Stewart emerged from the crowd, holding up the USB drive, "we can prove everything." Gita's carefully maintained facade cracked. She looked around wildly, seeing former allies step back, watching her perfectly curated world crumble. "I did everything for this family," she whispered. "Everything." "Sign the papers, Mother," Dawson said quietly. "Don't make this worse." Her hand shook as she took the pen. Each signature seemed to age her years, until finally, she looked up with tears in her eyes. "I hope you're happy," she spat at me. "You've won." "This wasn't about winning," I replied. "It was about justice." As the police led her away for questioning, guests quickly dispersed. Nicole approached me, looking shell-shocked. "I never thought she'd actually—" She trailed off. "I know," I hugged her. "I'm sorry it had to end this way." "Don't be," she straightened up. "It needed to end." Later that night, after the lawyers left and the evidence was secured, I found Dawson in Geeta's study, staring at old family photos. "Having regrets?" I asked softly. "No," he turned to me. "Just thinking about what to tell Sadie." I wrapped my arms around him. "We'll tell her that sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but necessary." My phone buzzed. A message from Zara. "Bank confirmed all accounts frozen. She can't touch anything now." "It's really over," I breathed. "Not quite." Dawson kissed my forehead. "Tomorrow we start rebuilding. The right way this time." Through the window, I watched the garden staff cleaning up the remains of the party. Like them, we'd clean up the mess Geeta left behind. But first, I had one more recording to deal with. One that would ensure she never tried to reclaim her power. The final battle was coming, and this time, I held all the cards. The police station's interview room felt smaller than it looked on TV. Geeta sat across from me, her designer outfit replaced by wrinkled clothes from yesterday. Without her usual makeup and perfectly styled hair, she looked older, vulnerable. "Why did you request this meeting?" she asked, her voice hoarse. I placed my phone on the table between us. "Because there's one recording you haven't heard yet." Her eyes narrowed. "Haven't you done enough damage?" "This isn't about damage," I pressed play. "This is about truth." The recording started, a conversation from 3 months ago between Geeta and Stuart. "The girl's smarter than we thought," Stuart was saying. "She's asking questions about the trust fund." "Dawson's trust fund was dissolved years ago," Geeta replied. "I used it to cover the losses from the Miami property." "And Sadie's education fund?" "Gone, along with the others. But once we sell, it won't matter. We'll be—" I stopped the recording. "You stole your own granddaughter's future." Geeta's hands trembled. "You don't understand. The family was in debt. Your father-in-law's gambling." "Stop lying!" I slammed my hand on the table. "The bank records show everything. You didn't save the family from debt. You created it with your lifestyle, your need for control, your offshore accounts." "What do you want from me?" she whispered. A full confession. Every detail, every scheme. Or this recording goes to the DA, and you'll face additional charges for stealing from minors." Her facade cracked completely. "They'll give me years." "Yes, unless you cooperate now." The door opened, and Fred walked in with a document. "The plea agreement, as discussed." Geeta stared at the papers, then at me. "You planned this all along." "I learned from you, remember? Always be 3 steps ahead." 2 hours later, I walked out of the police station with Geeta's signed confession. Dawson was waiting in the car. "Did she agree?" he asked as I slid into the passenger seat. "Everything. The trust funds, the property fraud, even tax evasion we didn't know about." He gripped the steering wheel. "I should have seen it, all those years." "Hey," I touched his arm. "You saw what she wanted you to see. We all did." At home, we found Nicole and Zara in the kitchen with Sadie, making cookies. "Mommy!" Sadie ran to me, covered in flour. "We're making happy cookies." "Happy cookies?" "Because the mean lady is gone," she said matter-of-factly. The adults exchanged glances. We hadn't told her anything about Geeta's arrest, but children always seem to understand more than we realized. "The bank board is meeting tomorrow," Zara announced, wiping her hands. "They're voting to approve the recovery of all diverted funds." Nicole added, "And I found documents in Mom's study. She had a whole network of fake companies. The forensic accountants are having a field day." My phone buzzed. A text from Stuart. "Meeting set with international investigators. Ready to tell them everything." Stewart's cooperating fully, I told Dawson. His testimony will ensure the overseas accounts are frozen. Good. Dawson pulled out his laptop. Because look what I found. He showed us emails between Geeta and various social elite, detailing how she'd manipulated property values and investment schemes throughout their circle. Half of upper society was involved? Nicole gasped. Or victims, Dawson corrected. She played everyone. The doorbell rang. Fred entered with more documents. The judge approved the asset freeze, he announced. And there's more. The estate's true value? Nearly triple what Geeta claimed. Once we recover the hidden assets, the family's financial future is secure. Including Sadie's education fund? I asked. Especially that. I've already set up a protected trust. No one can touch it. Sadie tugged at my dress. Can we have a party? A real one without scary people? I laughed, picking her up. Yes, baby, the best party ever. That evening, as news of Geeta's confession spread through social circles, our phones wouldn't stop buzzing. Former family friends, business associates, all claiming they'd always suspected something wasn't right. Funny how they're all experts now, Nicole said bitterly, reading the messages. Let them talk, I replied. We have proof. We have truth. Dawson called us to the dining room, where he'd laid out papers across the table. These are the new family business structures, he explained. Transparent, ethical, everything documented and above board. And this, Fred added, placing another document down, is the new estate ownership agreement. Equal shares between all legitimate family members. Including Sabrina? Nicole asked. Especially Sabrina. Dawson squeezed my hand. She saved this family. She deserves an equal voice in its future. My phone lit up one last time. A message from the prison where Geeta was being held. I underestimated you. Perhaps that was my biggest mistake. Gee, I showed it to Dawson. No, he said firmly. Her biggest mistake was thinking she could steal our daughter's future and get away with it. I looked around at our reformed family, Nicole, Zara, Fred, all united in building something better from the ashes of Geeta's schemes. Tomorrow, I said, we start fresh. Together. But first, we had some happy cookies to finish baking. The autumn breeze rustled through the garden as I supervised the workers taking down the last of Geeta's pretentious decorative statues. In their place, we were installing a playground for Sadie and her cousins. The swing set goes there, I pointed, then felt a tug on my sleeve. Mrs. Sabrina? Maria, our housekeeper of 15 years, held out an envelope. Found this while cleaning the East Wing storage. Inside was a letter dated just before my wedding to Dawson, written in Geeta's elegant script. My dearest son, I fear you're making a terrible mistake. This girl will destroy everything we've built. Still finding her little time bombs? Nicole approached, carrying coffee. Her last attempts to control the narrative, I crumpled the letter. How was the court hearing? Final sentencing next week. The prosecutor says with all the evidence, she's looking at 12 years minimum. My phone buzzed. A message from Stewart. International accounts recovered. Full amount restored. Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right. Inside, Dawson was meeting with Fred and the new board members. Through the study window, I could see him confidently leading the discussion, no longer the conflicted son trying to please his mother. Mommy! Sadie ran out with Zara chasing her. Look what Aunt Zara got me! She proudly displayed a business card. Future CEO in training. Starting her early? I raised an eyebrow at Zara. Someone needs to run this place when we're old, she grinned. Might as well be someone with both brains and heart. The meeting ended, and Dawson joined us in the garden. The board approved everything. New charitable foundation, scholarship programs, ethical investment guidelines. And the staff pensions? I asked. Restored and increased. Maria cried when I told her. Nicole checked her phone. The society papers are having a field day. Prominent families renaissance, from scandal to salvation. Let them talk, I said. Actions speak louder than headlines. Just then, Jillian arrived with a stack of papers. The community center plans are approved. Construction starts next month. We were converting one of Gita's empty properties into a resource center for families in need, something she would have considered beneath her status. Perfect timing, Fred emerged from the house. The judge signed off on using the recovered funds for community investment. It's all legal and transparent. Sadie tugged at Dawson's sleeve. Daddy, can we have the swings now? Of course, Princess. Want to help pick the colors? As they walked toward the playground area, Nicole touched my arm. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but the house feels like a home now. Speaking of home, Zara interrupted, wait until you see this. She pulled out her tablet, showing us security footage from Gita's old country club. Several of her former society friends were being escorted out, their own financial misdeeds exposed during the investigation. Karma's quite the equalizer, I mused. Mrs. Sabrina, Maria called from the terrace. The new family portrait photographer is here. We gathered in the garden. Dawson, Sadie, Nicole, Zara, even Stuart. Around the old oak tree Gita had always hated for dropping leaves on her precious lawn. Everyone ready? The photographer asked. Wait, I said, pulling out my phone. I played the final recording I'd kept private until now. I built this family, Gita's voice declared from years ago. Without me, they're nothing. I deleted the file as her words faded into the autumn air. Now we're ready, I smiled. This is our family's true foundation. The camera clicked, capturing not just our images, but a moment of genuine joy, something Gita's perfectly posed portraits never managed. Later, as sunset painted the garden in gold, Dawson found me by the new swing set. Remember what you said when we first met? He asked. About how wealth doesn't define family? You thought I was naive. I thought you were right. I just didn't have the courage to live it then. He pulled me close. Thank you for showing us a better way. Mommy, Daddy, Sadie called from the terrace. Aunt Nicole made hot chocolate. Inside, the house buzzed with warm conversation and laughter. The formal dining room, where Gita once held court, was now filled with family playing board games. The study where she plotted her schemes had become a shared workspace for charitable projects. My phone lit up one last time. An email from the prison warden. Mrs. Patel requests a final meeting. I showed it to Dawson. Your choice, he said. But remember, you don't owe her anything. I typed my response. The past is closed. Our future is bright enough without shadows. As I hit send, Sadie climbed into my lap with her hot chocolate mustache, and Nicole dealt another round of cards. Outside, the playground equipment gleamed in the setting sun, promising years of happy memories to come. We didn't need hidden recordings anymore. Our truth was right here, in the open, stronger than any secret could ever be. Your turn, Mommy. Sadie handed me my cards. Are you ready to play? I looked at my family, real, honest, united, and smiled. I've never been more ready.
I always thought I'd feel beautiful on my wedding day. Instead, I feel like I'm burning alive in $3,000 worth of white satin and lace. You okay? Emma squeezes my hand as we stand just outside the reception hall doors. The string quartet inside has just finished tuning up. Just need a minute. I force a smile that doesn't reach my eyes. My makeup artist spent 90 minutes making me look effortlessly radiant, but my reflection in the mirrored wall shows a woman I barely recognize. Emma adjusts my veil, her eyes searching mine. Noelle, talk to me. Is this just normal wedding jitters or... I'm fine. The lie comes easily. I've been telling it to myself for weeks. The doors swing open and 100 faces turn toward me. Alfred stands at the front of the room, tall and impossibly handsome in his tuxedo. His smile is brilliant, practiced, the same one he uses to charm juries. My stomach twists. I scan the crowd as I walk in, nodding at colleagues, distant relatives, and Alfred's law partners. My mother sits rigidly in the front row, her approval as conditional as always. Bryant, my mentor, gives me a subtle thumbs up from his table. And then there's Violet, my sister, standing by the champagne fountain, looking everywhere but at me. The quartet begins playing as I make my entrance. Alfred extends his hand as I approach. His fingers are warm when they close around mine, but I feel nothing. Just hours ago, I found a text on his phone while he was in the shower. Not the first suspicious message I'd glimpsed, but the most damning. "You look stunning," he whispers. And for a second, I almost believe he means it. The efficient begins, and I go through the motions. My voice sounds distant to my own ears as I repeat words about honor and cherishing. Alfred's vows are eloquent, of course. He's always been good with words, too good. If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The traditional pause, a few awkward chuckles from the crowd, and then, "I have something to say." The voice cuts through the room like a blade. Conversations stop. Glasses freeze midway to lips. I don't need to turn to know it's Violet. "I'm sorry, Noelle." My sister's voice wavers. "I can't let you do this." The room tilts slightly. Alfred's hand tightens around mine, his fingernails digging into my palm. "Violet, this isn't the time," my mother hisses, half rising from her seat. But Violet continues, each word striking like a physical blow. "Alfred and I have been sleeping together for the past 8 months. The collective gasp seems to suck all the oxygen from the room. I turn slowly, feeling as though I'm moving underwater. Violet stands there in her maid of honor dress, the one I spent weeks helping her choose, her face flushed, eyes glassy with tears that look almost genuine. "It started as just one night," she continues, her voice growing stronger. "But it became more. I'm in love with him, Noelle, and he loves me too." I look back at Alfred, whose face has drained of color, not from shock, from being caught. The calculation is already happening behind his eyes. I can see it, having witnessed it in the courtroom. He's measuring responses, weighing options. "Noelle," he starts, his tone placating, the same tone he uses with difficult clients. "This isn't, she's confused." 8 months, I repeat, my voice surprisingly steady. "That would be right after our engagement party, wouldn't it?" Alfred blinks, thrown by my calmness. "She's making this up. You know how Violet gets, always wanting attention." "The text I saw this morning," I continue, "the one that said, 'After today, we won't have to hide anymore.' That wasn't from a client, was it?" The room is so quiet I can hear the ice melting in abandoned drinks. My mother's face is a mask of horror. Emma has moved closer, ready to catch me if I fall. But I won't fall, not here. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I ask, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Or did you just not care?" Alfred reaches for my arm. "Let's discuss this privately." I step back, out of his reach. "There's nothing to discuss." I turn to face our guests, these people who came to celebrate our love. Some look horrified, others embarrassed. A few, Alfred's friends, almost amused. I remove my engagement ring, the 3-carat diamond catching the light one last time. "Thank you all for coming," I say, my voice clear and controlled. "Unfortunately, there won't be a wedding today." I place the ring in Alfred's palm, closing his fingers around it. His expression shifts from damage control to genuine alarm. He hadn't expected this version of me. "Noelle, don't." I cut him off with a single look. Then I turn to Violet, who's watching with wide eyes, like she's surprised by the consequences of her own actions. "Thank you," I tell her, and confusion flickers across her face. "Thank you for the confirmation." I walk back down the aisle alone, head high, the weight of 100 stairs on my back. The heavy doors close behind me with a decisive thud, and only then do I allow myself a single shuddering breath. The dress that took 6 months to perfect now feels like a costume I can't wait to shed. The hotel room ceiling has a small water stain in the corner. I've been staring at it for hours, watching how it changes shape in the shifting darkness. 3 in the morning, and sleep feels like a distant memory. I kick off the suffocating duvet and sit up. My wedding dress is crumpled in the corner where I left it, a white ghost haunting the room. I should have burned it. My phone lights up for the 47th time tonight. Alfred again. I don't need to read the message to know what it says. They've all followed the same pattern. Denial, then anger, then desperate pleas for me to answer him so he can explain. What is there to explain about sleeping with my sister? I scroll through older messages instead, hunting for clues I missed. There are hundreds between us, daily check-ins, dinner plans, sweet nothings, lies, all of them. But something catches my eye, a text from 3 months ago. Can't make dinner tonight. Emergency client meeting. Don't wait up. I remember that night. I'd called his office when he didn't answer my texts, and his secretary said he'd left early. I'd brushed it off, trusting him completely. That same night, Violet had canceled our weekly sister lunch for the following day. A terrible migraine, she'd claimed. My fingers move before my brain catches up, dialing Emma's number despite the hour. I'm awake, she answers immediately. Are you okay? I need you to tell me something, I say, my voice hoarse. That weekend we went to the coast 3 months ago. Did Violet say anything about where she was the night before? Emma hesitates. She mentioned meeting friends for drinks. Why? Which friends? She didn't say. Noelle, what's going on? I close my eyes. I think it's been happening longer than 8 months. The silence on the other end confirms my suspicion that Emma had the same thought. I'm coming over, she says finally. No, I need to be alone tonight. I pause. But tomorrow, I need your help with something. Bryant's office has always been my sanctuary. The smell of old books and coffee, the view of the city skyline, the quiet confidence of a space where I've grown from nervous intern to partner track architect. You should take some time off, he says, leaning against his desk. His eyes are kind but concerned. No one would blame you. I'd blame me. I straighten the models on his shelf, needing to fix something, anything. Work is the only thing that makes sense right now. Bryant sighs. Noelle, I hired someone, I blurt out. A private investigator. His eyebrows shoot up. To what end? I need to know everything. My voice doesn't waver. How long it's been happening? If there were others, I need facts, not just Violet's version. And then what? Bryant asks gently. I don't have an answer. Not one I'm ready to say out loud. My phone buzzes. A text from the PI I hired this morning. Found something? Meeting in 20? The cafe is busy enough that our conversation won't be overheard. The investigator, a woman named Jess, with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, slides a folder across the table. That was fast, I say. Some things are easy to find if you know where to look. She taps the folder. Credit card statements, hotel receipts, phone records. They weren't exactly careful. My hands shake as I open it. The first page is a credit card statement. Alfred's. Multiple charges at a hotel downtown, dating back nearly a year. The same hotel every few weeks. A year, I whisper. They've been doing this for a year. Jess nods. There's more. Your sister's social media has them in the same locations too many times to be coincidental. Different cities even. They took a weekend trip to Chicago 3 months ago. The coast trip, the migraine, the client emergency. It all clicks into place. That's not all, Jess continues, her voice softening slightly. There are text messages. I managed to recover some deleted ones from the cloud backup. I flip to the next page and immediately wish I hadn't. The messages between them are explicit. intimate, plans and promises, discussions about their future. After I was out of the picture, soon we won't have to hide, Alfred had written. Just a few more months until the wedding and the prenup is signed. Then we'll have everything we need. The prenup. The one that would have given Alfred access to my trust fund if we stayed married for at least a year. The inheritance my grandfather left specifically to me, not Violet. This wasn't just an affair. It was a con. My phone rings, Violet's name flashing on the screen. For the first time since yesterday, I answer. Noelle, thank God, she breathes. I've been so worried. Can we talk? Please, I need to explain. Where are you right now? I ask, my voice eerily calm. At Mom's, she's not happy with me. I bet she isn't. I close the folder, my decision made. Tell me something, Violet. Was it worth it? What? Was destroying me worth whatever he promised you? She starts to cry, those familiar tears that have gotten her out of trouble our entire lives. It wasn't like that. I fell in love. You fell in love with my fiancé and my money, I cut in. That's quite a coincidence. Her crying stops abruptly. What are you talking about? I know about the prenup, Violet. I know about Chicago. I know everything. The silence stretches between us. This isn't over, I say finally, not by a long shot. I hang up and look at Jess, who's watching me with something like respect. What's next? She asks. I take a deep breath. Everything. I want to know everything. 3 days after my wedding that wasn't, I sit cross-legged on my living room floor surrounded by evidence of my former life's implosion. Jess has been thorough. Hotel receipts, photos, text message logs, and location data spread around me like the world's most depressing puzzle. I pick up a photo of Alfred and Violet at a restaurant in Chicago, his hand on hers, both smiling like they'd invented happiness. The timestamp matches our coast trip perfectly. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. You still alive in there? I haven't left my apartment since meeting with Jess. Haven't showered today either, if I'm being honest. Barely, coming up for air soon. Good, Bryant called. He's worried. I set down my phone without responding. Bryant's concern feels like one more responsibility I can't handle right now. The evidence tells a story I'm still struggling to accept. Alfred and Violet's affair began just weeks after he proposed, not after the engagement party, as she claimed at the wedding. Their Chicago trip wasn't the only one. They'd been to New York twice, once, while I was at a conference in Seattle. The prenup Alfred had insisted upon, just to protect us both, had been carefully designed to give him access to my inheritance after a year of marriage. And Violet, my little sister, the girl I'd protected from bullies, helped through college, defended to our mother countless times. She'd been planning to move in with him after I signed those papers. My doorbell rings, startling me. Through the peephole, I see Alfred, looking haggard in rumpled clothes. I know you're in there, Noelle, he calls through the door. We need to talk. My heart hammers against my ribs. I press my back against the wall, willing him to leave. I'm not going anywhere until you open this door, he continues, his lawyer voice slipping into place. The neighbors are starting to notice. That calculated manipulation, using my concern for appearances against me, ignites something molten in my chest. I swing the door open. Alfred's eyes widen at my appearance. Unwashed hair, sweatpants, dark circles under my eyes. Good. Let him see what he's done. You have 30 seconds, I say. He pushes past me into the apartment before I can stop him, then freezes when he sees the evidence spread across my floor. What is all this? His voice has lost its confidence. Your life, Alfred, or at least the parts you tried to hide. He picks up a hotel receipt, his face paling. You had me investigated? That's invasive, unethical, Funny coming from the man who was sleeping with my sister while planning to steal my inheritance. Alfred's expression shifts, the mask slipping to reveal something calculating beneath. It wasn't like that. No? Then explain the prenup. Explain why you needed access to my trust fund after 1 year of marriage. That was standard protection. For whom? I step closer. The prenup my lawyer drafted protected both of us. The one you insisted on replacing it with protected you. Only you. He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. Now I see it for what it is. A practiced move to appear vulnerable. I made a mistake with Violet, he says, voice softening. A terrible mistake, but I love you, Noelle. I've always loved you. Something breaks loose inside me, a laugh so bitter it scrapes my throat. You've never loved anyone but yourself. That's not fair. Fair? I grabbed the Chicago photo and thrust it at him. Was this fair? This was the weekend I was with Emma, grieving the anniversary of my father's death. You knew that. You knew what that weekend meant to me. His silence is damning. Get out, I whisper. Noelle, get out, I scream, my voice cracking. Before I call the police and tell them how you tried to defraud me. That gets his attention. Alfred straightens, lawyer mode fully engaged. You have no proof of intent to defraud. I gesture to the floor. I have enough to make your life very uncomfortable. Your firm doesn't like scandals, does it? Especially ones involving senior associates and inheritance schemes. His jaw tightens. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I open the door. And Alfred, tell Violet I know about the necklace too. His eyes flicker with confusion, then alarm. I don't have any information about a necklace. It was a shot in the dark. But his reaction tells me there's something there, something I need to find. After he leaves, I collapse onto the couch, adrenaline draining away. My phone rings. Bryant again? This time I answer. I'm alive, I say before he can speak. Glad to hear it. His voice is warm with relief. Listen, I need to tell you something. Alfred came by the office yesterday. I sit up straight. What? Why? He wanted to know if you'd been in contact with any of our clients, specifically the Westmore development. The Westmore development, my biggest project. The one that could make my career. He claimed that as your fiancé, he was concerned about your mental state affecting the project. Bryant continues. I showed him the door, but Noelle, he's trying to undermine you professionally. Cold clarity washes over me. This isn't just about my heart or my money anymore. Alfred is trying to destroy everything I've built. I'll be in tomorrow, I tell Bryant, already gathering the evidence into a folder. You sure you're ready? I look around my apartment at the shrine to betrayal I've been building. I can't hide forever, and I need to find out what this necklace is about. What necklace? I don't know yet, I admit, but I think it might be the key to understanding why Violet really did this. The Westmore presentation boards gleam under the conference room lights. I've spent the last 3 days rebuilding myself through work, showered, dressed in my sharpest suit, armed with coffee and determination. If Alfred wants to question my professional competence, I'll answer with excellence. They're going to love this, Bryant says, examining my revised designs. The sustainability elements are inspired. Thanks. I straighten papers that don't need straightening. Any word on who's representing the Westmores today? Bryant hesitates. Their regular counsel and Alfred. My hands freeze. What? He's claiming the Westmores specifically requested him. I tried to have him removed, but it's fine. I cut him off, though it's anything but fine. I can handle Alfred. Bryant studies me. You don't have to do this today. Yes, I do. I check my reflection in the glass wall. He's trying to rattle me. I won't give him the satisfaction. The conference room door opens, and the Westmores enter, Robert and his daughter Melissa, followed by their financial advisor. And then Alfred, looking immaculate in a suit I helped him choose last Christmas. Our eyes meet. His hold a warning, mine a promise. Noel? Robert Westmore embraces me warmly. Bryant tells me you've been working miracles with our project. Just doing my job, I smile, ignoring Alfred completely. Shall we begin? The presentation flows smoothly. I walk them through the redesigned community space, the green energy implementations, the cost-saving measures that don't sacrifice quality. I'm in my element, confident and clear. Then Alfred clears his throat. I have some concerns about the timeline. I keep my expression neutral. The timeline is aggressive but achievable. Given recent events, he continues, eyes fixed on me, I wonder if the firm can guarantee consistent project management. There it is, the attack I anticipated. If you're referring to my personal life, Alfred, I say, my voice steady, I assure you it has no bearing on my professional commitments. I'm simply concerned about emotional stability. A valid concern, I interrupt, turning to the Westmores, which is why I've implemented additional oversight protocols and brought in Tara from our sustainability team as support. You'll find the details on page 12 of your packets. Alfred blinks, caught off guard by my preparation. Melissa Westmore flips to the page. This is impressive, Noel. You've thought of everything. Not everything, Alfred mutters. Robert Westmore frowns. Is there something specific troubling you, Alfred? Because from where I sit, Noel has addressed all our concerns thoroughly. Alfred forces a smile. Just doing my due diligence. The meeting concludes with handshakes and approvals. As everyone files out, Alfred lingers. Clever move, he says once we're alone. But this isn't over. It was over the moment Violet opened her mouth at our wedding, I reply. Now it's just cleanup. His eyes narrow. Speaking of Violet, she's quite upset about your accusation. What accusation? About the necklace. She says she doesn't know what you're talking about. I maintain my poker face. Interesting that she's so upset about something she knows nothing about. Alfred steps closer. Whatever you think you know, I know enough. I gather my materials, and I'm learning more every day. His expression hardens. Be careful, Noel. You might not like what you find. The threat hangs in the air as he leaves. Only when the door closes do I allow myself a shaky breath. You bluffed? Emma laughs, pouring more wine into my glass. We're at her apartment, safely away from any memories of Alfred or Violet. That's brilliant. It was a guess, I admit, but his reaction told me everything. There's something about a necklace that matters to them both. Emma's smile fades. Do you think it could be your grandmother's emerald? The one your mom gave you for the wedding? My stomach drops. The emerald necklace, a family heirloom meant to be worn by Henderson women on their wedding days. My mother had presented it to me with rare emotion, a moment of connection between us. I never even wore it, I whisper. It was in my jewelry box for the ceremony. Emma sets down her glass. When did you last see it? I close my eyes, thinking. The rehearsal dinner. I showed it to Violet when she came to my room to borrow earrings. And after the wedding chaos? I haven't checked. My hands begin to shake. You don't think... Emma's expression is grim. Call your mother. The conversation with my mother is brief and painful. Yes, the necklace is missing. No, she hasn't seen it since giving it to me. Yes, she's furious about the wedding disaster. No, she doesn't want to discuss Violet's behavior. After hanging up, I stare at my phone. If they stole my grandmother's necklace, then this wasn't just about the trust fund. Emma finishes. It was about hurting you completely. My phone pings with a text from Jess. Found something on V's friend Daria. You'll want to see this. Attached is a photo of Daria and Violet at a cafe, huddled in conversation. The timestamp is 2 days ago, but what catches my eye is the glint of green at Violet's throat, partially hidden by her scarf. My grandmother's emerald. I need to talk to Daria, I say, showing Emma the photo. Violet's best friend? She'll never betray her. Maybe not. I finish my wine. But Daria and I were friends once too, before Violet claimed her. And unlike my sister, Daria has a conscience. I send a text to Daria. We need to talk about the necklace Violet's wearing. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Riverside Cafe. Come alone. The response is immediate. How did you know? I don't answer. Let her worry overnight about what I know and what I don't. Tomorrow, I'll start getting real answers. Riverside Cafe bustles with morning customers, but I spot Daria immediately. She's hunched over her coffee, eyes darting nervously toward the door. When she sees me, her face pales. I slide into the seat across from her, setting my phone face up on the table, recording app ready. Thank you for coming, I say, keeping my voice neutral. Daria's fingers twist around her cup. I almost didn't. But you did. That says something. She looks thinner than I remember, dark circles under her eyes. Violet's friendship has always come with a cost. I don't know what you think I can tell you, she begins. I pull out the photo and place it between us. You can start by explaining why my sister is wearing my grandmother's emerald necklace. Daria stares at the picture, then closes her eyes briefly. I told her not to wear it in public, so you knew she took it. Not initially. Daria's voice drops. She showed up at my place after your wedding, or non-wedding, wearing it under her dress. Said it was a gift from your mother. My mother would never give Violet that necklace. The certainty in my voice makes Daria flinch. It's been passed to the eldest daughter for generations. That's what I thought, but Violet was convincing. I lean forward. What else has she convinced you of, Daria? She looks away. I don't want to be in the middle of this. You already are. I keep my voice gentle but firm. How long have you known about her and Alfred? Since Christmas. She meets my eyes finally. I saw them together at the mall when they were supposedly shopping separately for your gifts. They didn't see me. 6 months. While I was planning my wedding, my friend knew my sister and fiancé were betraying me. Why didn't you tell me? Daria's eyes fill with tears. Violet said it was just physical, that it would end before the wedding. Then she said Alfred was leaving you anyway, that you were too focused on your career to make him happy. Each word is a fresh cut. I take a steadying breath. And the trust fund? The prenup? Daria looks genuinely confused. What prenup? I explain briefly about Alfred's financial scheme. Daria's expression shifts from confusion to horror. I didn't know about any of that, she whispers. Violet never mentioned money. What did she mention? Daria hesitates. She said it was finally her turn to be the favorite. The words hit me like a physical blow. Her turn? She's always felt second best. To you, the successful daughter, the one your mother respects, the one who got the family heirlooms and the trust fund from your grandfather. That's not... I stop myself. Isn't it true? Our mother has always been harder on Violet, comparing her unfavorably to me. And our grandfather did leave his money only to me, saying Violet was too irresponsible. That doesn't justify what she did, I say finally. No, Daria agrees. It doesn't. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a small velvet pouch. I took this from her yesterday, told her I needed to borrow it for a date. My grandmother's emerald necklace spills into my palm, the green stone catching the light. My throat tightens. Why are you giving this to me? Daria looks miserable. Because I should have told you at Christmas, because what they're doing is wrong. As I'm processing this, the cafe door opens. Violet walks in, freezing when she sees us together. Her eyes lock on the necklace in my hand. "You bitch," she hisses at Daria. "You said you needed it for a date." Daria stands, gathering her things. "I'm sorry, Violet. I can't do this anymore." She squeezes my shoulder before hurrying out, leaving me alone with my sister. Violet slides into the vacant seat, her initial shock hardening into defiance. "So now you're turning my friends against me too?" "I didn't have to turn anyone. Your actions did that." She scoffs. Always so self-righteous. Poor Noelle, the perfect victim. "Why did you take this?" I hold up the necklace. "It wasn't enough to take Alfred?" Something flickers across her face. Pain, maybe even shame, before the mask returns. "Mom should have given it to me. She only gave it to you because you're the responsible one." "So you stole it." "I borrowed it." "Like you borrowed my fiancé?" The words come out sharper than intended. Violet leans forward. "Alfred and I love each other. That part wasn't a lie." "And the prenup? The plan to access my trust fund? Was that love too?" Her expression falters. "What are you talking about?" For a moment, I almost believe her confusion is genuine, but I've seen the evidence. "Stop lying, Violet. I know everything." "Clearly you don't," she snaps. "Alfred never mentioned any trust fund to me." A cold feeling spreads through my chest. "Then why?" "Because I was tired of being second place." Her voice rises, drawing glances from nearby tables. "My entire life, it's been, why can't you be more like Noelle? Do you have any idea what that's like? So you destroyed my wedding to get back at me?" I struggle to keep my voice steady. "How does that make you first place in anything?" Violet's eyes fill with tears that, for once, seem real. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I was drunk, emotional. Alfred said we should wait until after." She stops abruptly. "After what?" I press. "Nothing." She stands, grabbing her purse. "Keep the stupid necklace. It doesn't matter anymore." As she turns to leave, I catch her wrist. "Violet, if Alfred was using you too." "He loves me," she insists, but uncertainty clouds her eyes. "He's going to prove it." "How?" She pulls away. "You'll see. We both will." After she leaves, I sit motionless, the necklace heavy in my hand. My phone buzzes with a text from Jess. "Found something in A's email. Meeting tonight?" I reply immediately, "Yes, and bring everything you have on my mother's finances." The pieces are starting to fit together, forming a picture I never expected, one where Violet might be as much a victim as I am. "Your mother is broke." Jess slides financial statements across my kitchen table, "or she will be very soon." I stare at the documents, trying to make sense of them. Bank accounts nearly empty. Credit cards maxed out. A second mortgage on the family home I grew up in. "That's impossible," I say. "My mother is obsessively careful with money." "Was," Jess corrects. "Something changed about 18 months ago. Large withdrawals, luxury purchases, a trip to Monaco." Monaco? My mother, who considers a weekend in the Hamptons an extravagance? Could someone have stolen her identity? Jess shakes her head. "The purchases were made in person. Credit card receipts have her signature." I flip through the statements again, noticing a recurring charge. "What's Horizon Partners?" "Investment firm. Very exclusive." Jess pulls up information on her tablet. Minimum buy-in of $200,000. The amount matches a withdrawal from my mother's retirement account. "And look who's on their client relations team." Jess turns the tablet toward me. Alfred's face smiles back at me from the company website. "I don't understand," I whisper. "Alfred is a corporate lawyer. He doesn't work in investments." "According to my sources, he doesn't work for Horizon officially. He refers select clients for a commission." My mind races. Alfred met my mother through me 3 years ago. He proposed a year and a half ago, right when these financial changes began. He's been playing a longer game than I realized, I say, feeling sick. But why involve Violet? Insurance, maybe. Jess gathers the papers. Or just keeping it in the family. I think of Violet's confusion about the trust fund, her insistence that Alfred loves her. What if she's telling the truth about not knowing his financial motives? I need to talk to my mother. My childhood home looks smaller somehow, the garden less immaculate than I remember. My mother opens the door before I can knock, her expression guarded. "This is unexpected," she says, not moving to let me in. "We need to talk." I hold up the financial documents. "About Horizon Partners." Her face pales. She glances at the neighbor's house, then pulls me inside. The living room is the same as always, formal, impeccable, unlived in. But there are subtle changes. The silver candlesticks missing from the mantel. The space where a small painting once hung. "Where did you get those?" she demands, nodding at the papers in my hand. "That's not important. What matters is that Alfred has been stealing from you." She laughs, a brittle sound. "Don't be ridiculous. Alfred helped me invest my money. In a scheme. Mom, Horizon Partners isn't legitimate. They take your money and—" "Stop." Her voice is sharp. "I know exactly what I invested in. The returns have been exceptional." "Have you actually received any returns, or just statements showing growth?" Her hesitation tells me everything. "Mom," I say gently, "when was the last time you tried to withdraw money from this investment?" She sits down heavily. They require a 12-month commitment, which conveniently would have ended right after my wedding. I sit beside her, after I signed Alfred's prenup giving him access to my trust fund. "That's absurd. Alfred wouldn't—" She stops, uncertainty crossing her face. "He and Violet are both involved, yes, though I'm starting to think Violet doesn't know the full extent of it." My mother's composure cracks. "I've lost everything, haven't I?" The vulnerability in her voice strikes me. I've never seen her like this, scared, diminished. "Not everything," I say. "We can fight this. But I need to know when Alfred first approached you about investing." She tells me everything, how Alfred had mentioned exclusive investment opportunities, how he'd shown her fabricated success stories, how he'd made her feel special for being included. "I was trying to secure our future," she says. "Your father never left us with much security." The mention of my father, who died believing he'd provided well for us, stings. "Did Violet know about your investments?" My mother nods slowly. "Alfred brought her to one of the meetings, said it would be good for her to learn about finance." "And she never mentioned it to me?" "I asked them not to. I wanted to surprise you with the returns." Her laugh is hollow. "I was a fool." As we talk, pieces click into place. Alfred cultivated relationships with both my mother and sister, using each relationship to strengthen his position. The prenup was the final piece, access to the one fortune he couldn't touch otherwise. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. 911. "Violet just called me crying. She's at Alfred's apartment and needs help. Says he's showing his true colors." Cold dread washes over me. I have to go. Violet's in trouble. My mother grabs my arm. "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done from the beginning. Protect my sister." "After what she did to you?" Disbelief colors her voice. "She's still my sister." I head for the door, and Alfred has been manipulating all of us. "Noelle," my mother calls after me. "Be careful. Men like Alfred, they don't like losing." Outside, I call Emma. "I'm on my way to Alfred's. Call Bryant and tell him what's happening." "Shouldn't we call the police?" I think of Alfred's connections, his ability to charm and manipulate. "Not yet. First, I need to get Violet out of there." As I drive, another text comes through. From Violet this time. I'm sorry. You were right about everything. He wants the necklace back. Says it's worth more than I know. The emerald necklace, still in my purse from this morning. What did Alfred say? You might not like what you find. I press the accelerator harder. Whatever game Alfred is playing, it ends tonight. Alfred's luxury apartment building gleams like a fortress of glass and steel. The doorman recognizes me, his eyes widening slightly. Ms. Harper, I thought, I'm expected, I lie, striding past him. In the elevator, I check my phone. No new messages from Violet. Emma is 20 minutes away. Bryant hasn't responded. My fingers close around the velvet pouch in my purse, the emerald necklace suddenly heavy with significance. The elevator opens directly into Alfred's penthouse. The space is immaculate as always. Minimalist furniture, strategic lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. No sign of disturbance. No sign of Violet. Hello? My voice echoes in the open space. Alfred emerges from his home office, tumbler of whiskey in hand. He looks unsurprised to see me. Noel, what an unexpected pleasure. His tone is smooth, controlled. Where's Violet? He takes a deliberate sip. Not here. Cold fear grips me. She texted me, said she was with you. Did she? He sets down his glass. Phones can be so unreliable. I pull out my phone, showing him Violet's message. Stop playing games. Where is my sister? Alfred studies the text, then smiles. Ah, she was here earlier. We had a disagreement. She left. Without her phone? I step closer. What did you do to her? Always so dramatic. He sighs. I simply explained some financial realities she wasn't prepared to accept. Like how you've been scamming my mother? His expression flickers, surprise, quickly masked. I've helped your mother make sound investments. In a fake company with non-existent returns? I move toward the windows, keeping distance between us. The game is over, Alfred. I know everything. He laughs, but it doesn't reach his eyes. You always think you know everything. That's your problem, Noel. So convinced of your own superiority. This isn't about me. It's about what you've done to my family. Your family? His voice hardens. The mother who values status over happiness? The sister who's been jealous of you her entire life? They were easy to convince, Noel, because deep down, they wanted to believe they deserved more than you gave them. Each word lands like a blow, but I hold my ground. Where is Violet's phone? He gestures vaguely toward his office. Probably in there. She was quite upset when she left. I move toward the office, keeping my eyes on him. The door is ajar, desk lamp casting shadows across the room. Violet's phone lies on the desk beside. I freeze. Beside it is a jeweler's loop and a document titled Emerald Authentication. Curious about the necklace? Alfred appears in the doorway behind me. It's quite a remarkable piece, much more valuable than your family realizes. I turn slowly. What are you talking about? The emerald. He steps into the room. Colombian, exceptional clarity, over 15 carats, conservatively worth $500,000, more with its historical provenance. My mind races. My grandmother's necklace is a family heirloom, not some priceless gem. Your grandmother's? He laughs. That necklace dates back to the 1850s. It belonged to a Spanish countess before making its way to America. Your family probably has no idea of its true origin or value. The pieces click together. That's why you wanted me to wear it at the wedding. You were going to steal it. Not steal, simply relocate. His smile is cold. I have a buyer who's been looking for exactly such a piece. No questions asked. And when I didn't wear it to the wedding, Violet proved useful after all. He shrugs. She took it without prompting. A gift from the universe. Disgust rises in my throat. Did you ever care about either of us? Business is business, Noel. He steps closer. Now, I believe you have something that belongs to me. The necklace doesn't belong to you. Neither does your grandfather's trust fund, but that didn't stop you from hoarding it. His voice turned silky. You never planned to share with Violet, did you? Even knowing how your mother always favored you? I won't let him manipulate me. Where is Violet now? Safe, probably crying to one of her friends. He holds out his hand. The necklace, Noel. And if I don't give it to you? His expression hardens. Then things become unpleasant for everyone. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. It's Daria. Violet is with me. She's scared. Alfred threatened her. Relief floods through me, followed by clarity. I need to keep Alfred talking until Emma arrives. You know what I don't understand? I move toward the window, putting the desk between us. Why the elaborate scheme? Why not just steal the necklace? Because I'm not a thief, he says, affronted. I'm an opportunist. The trust fund was the primary goal. The necklace was a bonus. And my mother's investments? Seed money, establishing credibility. He smiles. Your mother was surprisingly easy to convince, so eager to prove her financial acumen. You destroyed her retirement for seed money? Anger burns through me. Collateral damage, he shrugs. Now enough stalling. The necklace. I reach into my purse, fingers closing around the velvet pouch. You know what the worst part is, Alfred? I actually loved you. And I appreciated that about you. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Love makes people so wonderfully compliant. The elevator chimes in the living room. Alfred's head turns slightly at the sound. In that moment of distraction, I press send on the voice recording app that's been running since I entered the apartment, forwarding the file to Emma, Bryant, and Jess. Alfred's eyes narrow as he turns back. What did you just do? I hold up my phone, showing him the sent confirmation. Business is business, Alfred. The fury that crosses his face is terrifying. He lunges across the desk, grabbing for my wrist. Give me that phone! I sidestep, but he catches my arm, fingers digging painfully into my skin. We struggle, his strength overwhelming mine. Let her go. Emma's voice cuts through the room. She stands in the doorway, Bryant beside her, both of their phones held up, recording. Alfred freezes, calculation passing across his face. He releases me with a shove that sends me stumbling backward. This proves nothing, he says, straightening his shirt. It's your word against mine. Actually, Bryant steps forward, it's your words against you. That confession about defrauding Reese Henderson? Very compelling evidence. Alfred's face drains of color as he realizes the extent of what I've recorded. You won't get away with this, he hisses at me. I pull the emerald necklace from my purse, holding it up to the light. I already have. The police station smells like industrial cleaner and bad coffee. I've been answering the same questions for 3 hours, my voice growing hoarse as I explain Alfred's scheme again and again. The recording makes it straightforward, but the detective wants every detail. And the necklace? She asks, making notes. A family heirloom. I place the velvet pouch on the table, apparently worth far more than we realized. She nods. We'll need to keep this as evidence temporarily. I understand. I glance at the clock, nearly midnight. Is my sister still here? Finishing her statement in the next room. When I'm finally released, I find Emma waiting in the lobby, scrolling through her phone. Bryant took your mother home, she says, standing. Alfred's being held without bail, flight risk. And Violet? Emma hesitates. Still inside, Daria's waiting for her. As if summoned by her name, Violet emerges from a side door, looking small and exhausted. When she sees me, she stops, uncertainty written across her face. "I'll wait in the car," Emma says, squeezing my arm before slipping outside. Violet and I stand in silence, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. All the anger I've carried these past weeks feels suddenly heavy, exhausting. "I didn't know," she finally says, "about Mom's money, about the necklace." "I know," her eyes widen slightly. "You believe me?" "Alfred manipulated all of us." I take a step closer. "But that doesn't erase what you did, Violet. You still chose to sleep with my fiancé. You still chose to humiliate me at my wedding." She looks down. "I was jealous of everything you had, everything you were." "And now?" I ask. "What do you think I have now?" Tears fill her eyes. "Your dignity, your strength." She wipes her cheek. "I never had either." The admission hangs between us, not quite an apology, but perhaps the most honest thing she's ever said to me. "Where will you go tonight?" I ask. "Daria's offering her couch." She attempts a smile. "Apparently, I've used up all my betrayal allowance with her." I nod, not yet ready to offer more. "Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow." As she turns to leave, I add, "Violet, I'm glad you're safe." The surprise in her eyes says everything about our relationship, how broken it's been, long before Alfred entered our lives. Dawn breaks as I unlock my apartment door, Emma trailing behind me. We're both exhausted, moving on autopilot as we kick off shoes and collapse onto the couch. "You should sleep," Emma says, stifling a yawn. "Not yet." I pull out my phone, dialing a number I rarely use. My mother answers on the first ring, voice alert despite the hour. "Noelle, is it over?" "Alfred's in custody. The police have everything they need." I take a deep breath. "But we need to talk about what happens next." "I've lost everything," she says quietly. "The investments, the house equity. Not everything." I meet Emma's questioning gaze. "I'm transferring funds from my trust to cover your losses." Silence on the line. Then, "I can't accept that." "You're not accepting anything. I'm fixing what Alfred broke." I pause. "But there are conditions." "What conditions?" Her voice turns wary. "Family therapy, you, me, and Violet, weekly." Another long silence. "Is that really necessary?" "Yes." My voice is firm. "What happened with Alfred exposed cracks that were already there. We need to address them." "And if I refuse?" "Then you'll still get the money." I close my eyes, finding strength I didn't know I had. "But you won't have me." I hear her sharp intake of breath. "You'd cut me off?" "I'd stop enabling patterns that hurt all of us." The words feel right as I say them. "I love you, Mom, but I won't sacrifice my well-being for your comfort anymore." When she finally speaks, her voice is different, smaller, but somehow more real than I've heard in years. "When do we start?" After we hang up, Emma studies me. "You okay?" "Getting there." I lean back, exhaustion washing over me. I never thought I'd be using my trust fund to bail out my mother and rebuild a relationship with the sister who slept with my fiancé. Emma smiles. "Life's funny that way." Hilarious. But I find myself smiling too. My phone buzzes with a text from Bryant. "Just heard from the jeweler. Your grandmother's emerald is indeed museum quality. The authentication is legitimate." I show Emma the message. "At least one good thing came from this mess. Besides exposing your con man fiancé and beginning to heal your dysfunctional family?" she asks dryly. "Besides that." We lapse into comfortable silence as the morning light strengthens. I think about the woman I was just weeks ago, planning a wedding, trusting blindly, avoiding difficult conversations. "I need to shower," I announce standing, "then sleep for approximately 3 days." Emma nods. "Want me to stay?" No. I smile at her surprise. I'm okay being alone now. As she gathers her things to leave, I find myself standing at my window, watching the city wake up. The emerald necklace is still in police custody, but I can feel its weight around my neck, the inheritance of strength I never knew I possessed. Emma pauses at the door. What will you do with the necklace when you get it back? I turn from the window, the answer coming with unexpected clarity. Keep it safe, then someday pass it to someone who understands its true value. Not its price, its history. The story of women who survived betrayal and emerged stronger, a legacy worth more than any gemstone. I am who I choose to be, I whisper to myself as the door closes behind Emma. The words echo in my empty apartment, no longer a statement of defiance, but a simple, powerful truth.
The bracelet slid across my desk like a silver snake, landing between my keyboard and coffee mug. A delicate thing with sapphires that caught the fluorescent office lights, making tiny blue stars dance on my computer screen. I'm Rowan, and until that moment, I thought I understood the rules of my marriage. Special delivery for you, said Marcus from IT, already walking away. Left at reception. The note inside the velvet box read, "For all the sacrifices." No signature. The handwriting wasn't Liam's. My husband's scrawl looked like a doctor's prescription pad had a fight with a tornado. This was elegant, purposeful. I checked my phone. No messages from Liam about surprise gifts. Strange, considering we just had another argument about cutting back on expenses last night. His freelance work had been slow, he'd said, while I carried most of our financial burden. That's gorgeous, Kelly from marketing whispered, peering over my cubicle wall. Anniversary? Something like that. I slipped the bracelet back into its box, my stomach churning. The price tag was still attached, $3,200, more than our monthly mortgage payment. I called Liam, straight to voicemail. Hey, got an interesting delivery today. Call me when you can? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, tempted to Google the jewelry store name embossed on the box. Instead, I pulled up our joint bank account. The balance mocked me, barely enough to cover next week's bills. No mysterious withdrawals for expensive jewelry. My phone buzzed, a text from Liam. In a meeting, what delivery? I snapped a photo of the bracelet and sent it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, must be promo gift from old client. Lucky you. The lie sat there, bold as brass. Liam hadn't had any major clients in months. He'd been networking, spending afternoons at coffee shops with his laptop, coming home with vague stories about potential projects. Everything okay? Kelly was still watching me, concern etched on her face. Fine. I forced a smile, just trying to remember if I thanked the sender. My phone buzzed again. Liam. Don't wear it to dinner tonight. Mom's sensitive about expensive gifts lately. I hadn't even mentioned dinner with his mother. Another piece of information he'd conveniently forgotten to share. The bracelet felt heavier now, weighted with unspoken questions. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines, but my mind kept circling back to those sapphires. Who sends a married woman jewelry? Who had Liam been meeting in those coffee shops? And why did he want me to hide it from his mother? At 5, I packed up my laptop, the velvet box burning a hole in my bag. Instead of heading home, I drove to the jewelry store listed on the box. The saleswoman's eyes lit up with recognition when I showed her the bracelet. Oh yes, the gentleman was very specific about the design, said it had to be sapphires, his lady friend's birthstone. My birthday is in April. Diamonds. When did he purchase this? She checked her computer. Last Wednesday. Paid in cash. Last Wednesday. While I was working late, trying to land a new client to boost our income, while Liam was supposedly at a networking event. My phone buzzed. Liam again. Running late. Meet you at Mom's around 7? I stared at the message, something cold and hard forming in my chest. The bracelet wasn't meant for me. It was never meant for me. Someone had redirected it, making sure it landed on my desk instead of around another woman's wrist. I texted back, no problem, I'll wear my new bracelet. Your mother will love it." His response was immediate. "Don't." But I already knew I would. Sometimes the best revenge starts with a simple piece of jewelry and a family dinner. I smiled at the saleswoman. "Thank you. You've been very helpful." It was time to have dinner with my mother-in-law. Evelyn's dining room felt like a stage set for a play where nobody knew their lines. The bracelet caught the chandelier light as I reached for my wine glass, exactly as I'd intended. Liam's face twitched, a micro-expression of panic I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been looking for it. "That's quite a beautiful piece," Grace said, her analyst's eyes missing nothing. "New?" "A gift," I replied, watching Liam drain his second glass of wine. Apparently from one of Liam's clients. Evelyn beamed, passing the potatoes. "Business must be picking up then. You've seemed so stressed about money lately." "Actually," I set down my fork, "I was hoping Liam could tell us more about this generous client. The jewelry store was quite interested in discussing the purchase." The silence stretched like warm taffy. Liam's knuckles went white around his wine glass. "I told you," he said, voice carefully controlled. "It was a thank you gift for that branding project." "Which project was that, dear?" Evelyn asked. "The one with the tech startup?" "No, different client." Liam stood abruptly. "Anyone need more wine?" Grace's eyes narrowed. "Funny, I thought you said last week that all your projects were on hold." My sister-in-law, always the accountant, always tracking the numbers. I could kiss her. "Things change quickly in freelance," Liam muttered, disappearing into the kitchen. "Speaking of change," Grace continued, "I saw your car at the Grand Hotel last Tuesday. Thought about saying hello, but you seemed occupied." The potato in my mouth turned to ash. Tuesday, when Liam said he was meeting potential clients at a coffee shop. "The Grand?" Evelyn perked up. "That new luxury spa they opened there is divine, though the prices—" She whistled low. "You've been there, Mom?" Grace asked. "Oh no, couldn't afford it on a principal's pension. But my friend Margaret's daughter works there. Chloe something or other, event planner, always posting about their amenities on Facebook." My fork clattered against the plate. Liam, returning with wine, nearly dropped the bottle. "Chloe?" I tested the name, watching my husband's face. "Pretty name." "Common name," Liam said quickly. Too quickly. Grace's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at me, something shifting in her expression. "Rowan, didn't you mention wanting to see those investment papers I found? For that side project?" I hadn't mentioned any such thing, but I recognized a lifeline when I saw one. "Yes, actually. Would now be a good time?" "Perfect time." Grace stood. "Mom, mind if we use your study?" In Evelyn's book-lined study, Grace closed the door and pulled out her phone. "I wasn't sure whether to show you this, but—" She pulled up a banking app. "I still have access to Liam's business accounts from when I helped with his taxes. Look at these transactions. Regular withdrawals. Large ones. All tagged consulting fees, but all in round numbers. All on Tuesday afternoons. How long?" My voice sounded distant, even to myself. 3 months. Started right after he landed that big corporate contract. Grace's face softened. The one he said fell through. The contract that was supposed to solve our financial struggles. The one that had me working overtime to cover our bills while Liam networked and built his client base. "The Grand Hotel has a lovely event space," Grace continued carefully. "Perfect for a freelance graphic designer to meet with an event planner about potential collaborations." My fingers traced the sapphires on my wrist. "This wasn't meant for me, was it?" "No, but someone wanted you to get it." Grace squeezed my hand. "Question is, what are you going to do about it?" Through the study window, I could see Liam in the garden, pacing, phone to his ear. His gestures were agitated, defensive. Warning someone, perhaps, about an unexpected delivery gone wrong. "First," I said, unclasping the bracelet, "I'm going to return this. Then I'm going to find out exactly what services my husband's been consulting on at the Grand Hotel." Grace nodded, a sharp smile playing at her lips. "Need a financial analyst's help with that?" "Actually," I said, watching Liam through the window, "I think I need a sister's help. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served with family. The Grand Hotel's marble lobby gleamed like polished bones. Grace's friend at the front desk, carefully cultivated over a week of strategic coffee dates, gave us a subtle nod. We had exactly 47 minutes before Liam's standing Tuesday consultation. "Remember," Grace whispered, adjusting her visitor badge, "we're here to scout venues for my company's charity gala." The spa reception area reeked of lavender and lies. A wall of photos showcased their signature events. I stopped breathing when I saw it. Liam's distinctive design work on their latest brochure, the one he'd never mentioned. "Can I help you, ladies?" The receptionist's smile was professional, practiced. "We're meeting Chloe?" Grace's voice carried just the right amount of entitled expectation. "About the Morrison Foundation event?" "Oh, she's running a bit late. Feel free to wait in the lounge." The lounge offered a perfect view of both entrances. Grace pulled out her tablet, maintaining our cover while I watched the door. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I gripped my phone instead. "Those withdrawals," I said quietly. "The ones you tracked. How much total?" "Enough to cover our mortgage for a year." Grace's voice was flat. "He's been moving it through 3 different accounts to hide the trail." The click of heels on marble made us both look up. A woman in a fitted black dress strode past, all confidence and calculated grace. My stomach lurched. She wore an identical sapphire bracelet. "That's her," Grace confirmed unnecessarily. Chloe disappeared into an office, leaving behind a wake of expensive perfume and bitter reality. I started to stand, but Grace grabbed my wrist. "Wait for it." 3 minutes later, Liam walked in. My husband of 8 years, wearing the blue shirt I'd given him last Christmas, carrying the leather portfolio I'd helped him pick for client meetings. He didn't even glance around before following Chloe's path to the office. "Now what?" My voice sounded strange, distant. "Now we wait. Unless you'd rather—" The office door opened. Chloe emerged, followed by Liam, both heading toward the private elevator. His hand rested on the small of her back with familiar intimacy. "I need air." I stood abruptly, drawing curious glances. Grace followed me to the garden terrace, where I gripped the railing until my knuckles went white. A few feet away, through the glass doors, I could see Liam and Chloe stepping into the elevator, his arm now around her waist. "You knew," I said to Grace, "before the bracelet, before any of this." "I suspected. The numbers didn't add up." She touched my shoulder. "I needed proof before I told you. I'm sorry." My phone buzzed, a text from Liam. "Working late tonight. Big project deadline." Another buzz. "Don't wait up." The screen blurred as tears threatened to fall. I blinked them back, anger replacing pain. "I want to destroy him." "Rowan." "No, listen. He's not just cheating. He's stealing. From our future. From our—" I stopped, the final betrayal hitting me like a physical blow. "The fertility treatments. The ones we couldn't afford." Grace's sharp intake of breath told me she'd made the same connection. The treatments we'd postponed because of Liam's temporary financial setback, while he funded his affair with our savings. My phone buzzed again. An email this time, from an anonymous account. "Thought you should see this." Attached were photos, Liam and Chloe at restaurants, hotels, jewelry stores. The timestamps went back months. "Someone's helping us," Grace said, reading over my shoulder. "Or setting us up." I straightened, a plan forming. "Either way, I'm done playing defense." "What are you thinking?" I watched the elevator numbers climb to the penthouse level, where the hotel's most expensive suites were located. "I'm thinking it's time to plan an event of our own. Something special. Something—" I smiled, cold and sharp. "Sacrificial." Grace's answering smile was equally predatory. "I know just the venue." Through the glass, I could see Chloe's bracelet catching the light as the elevator doors closed. Soon, she'd learn what happens when you wear another woman's sacrifice like a trophy. But first, I had a charity gala to plan. The anonymous emails kept coming, each one a digital dagger, time-stamped proof of Liam's betrayal. I spread them across my laptop screen like tarot cards, reading our future in megapixels and metadata. "You need to see this," Grace said, barging into my home office. She carried her tablet like a weapon. "I traced those consulting payments. They're not just going to the Grand." I minimized the photos. What do you mean? There's a shell company, Phoenix Creative Solutions, registered 6 months ago. Grace's fingers flew across her tablet. Guess who's listed as creative director? The name hit me like a slap. Chloe Marshall. They're business partners? My voice cracked on the last word. Partners in every sense. Grace pulled up a business registration. And there's more. Remember that corporate contract Liam said fell through? My stomach clenched. The one that was supposed to save us from financial ruin? It didn't fall through. He redirected it to Phoenix Creative. Grace's expression hardened. They're using your savings as startup capital. The room tilted sideways. All those extra hours I'd worked, the fertility treatments we'd postponed, the vacations canceled, funding their future while dismantling mine. My phone buzzed. Liam. Working late again. Big pitch tomorrow. Before I could respond, another anonymous email arrived. This time with a video attachment, security footage from the Grand's lobby. Liam and Chloe, heads bent over paperwork, her hand on his arm. The timestamp. Right now. I need to go. I grabbed my keys. Rowan? Wait. But I was already moving, rage propelling me forward. The drive to the Grand passed in a blur of streetlights and scattered thoughts. I hadn't planned this confrontation, hadn't prepared my words or steeled my heart. The lobby was quiet at this hour. The same receptionist from before recognized me, started to speak, but I was already pushing through the doors to the business center. They sat at a corner table, papers spread between them like battle plans. Chloe's hand still rested on Liam's arm, her sapphire bracelet catching the light. My bracelet. Our money. So, this is your big pitch? My voice carried across the empty room. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Liam's face drained of color. Rowan, I can explain. Phoenix Creative Solutions? I picked up a proposal document, their joint logo mocking me from the header. Interesting name, rising from the ashes of our marriage? It's not what you think. Liam stood, hands raised like I was pointing a gun instead of papers. This is a business opportunity, built on lies. I turned to Chloe, who hadn't moved. Did he tell you about the fertility treatments we canceled, or did that money go straight into your startup? Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Guilt? Before her professional mask slipped back into place. This is a private business matter. Private? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. Like those Tuesday afternoon consultations in the penthouse suite? Liam stepped forward. How did you... know? I pulled out my phone, displayed the anonymous emails. Seems someone thought I deserved the truth, unlike my husband. Those emails... Chloe's voice trailed off, her eyes widening with recognition. You know who sent them. It wasn't a question. She glanced at Liam, who had gone very still. Margaret's daughter, she whispered. From reception. I had to let her go last week. Of course. Evelyn's friend's daughter. The connection I'd missed. Rowan, Liam tried again. We can work this out. The business is taking off. Once we're profitable... I gathered their proposals, their precious plans. There is no we anymore, Liam. Just like there's no more joint savings account. His face changed. What did you do? What you taught me to do. I smiled, thinking of Grace's financial maneuvering. I protected my investments. I left them there, surrounded by their schemes and lies, knowing tomorrow would bring a different kind of revelation. Because while they'd been planning their future, Grace and I had been planning something else entirely. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about exposing lies. Sometimes it's about turning their own weapons against them. The Morrison Foundation gala invitation sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Grace had pulled strings, called in favors, and somehow managed to get Phoenix Creative Solutions hired as the event planners. They didn't know I was the anonymous client representative they'd been coordinating with for weeks. Everything's set, Grace said, reviewing the final arrangements. Chloe's planned quite the spectacle. Live streaming, press coverage, all their major clients attending. Perfect venue for a different kind of reveal. I touched the USB drive containing months of financial records, emails, and surveillance footage. Is the presentation ready? Locked and loaded. They won't see it coming. My phone lit up with Liam's message. Can we talk? About last night? Another message followed. I know I hurt you, but this business could change everything. Give me a chance to explain. Grace read over my shoulder. He's scared. Good. The gala was tomorrow night. Our chance to expose not just the affair, but the financial fraud that could destroy their precious Phoenix creative before it truly launched. Yet something gnawed at me. What if we're becoming just like them? The question slipped out before I could stop it. They stole your future, Grace reminded me. Used your savings, your trust. I know. I stood, pacing. But this revenge, it feels like it's changing me. My office door opened. Kelly from marketing stood there, face pale. Rowan, you need to see this. She held up her tablet. On screen was Phoenix Creative's latest Instagram post. Chloe, wearing my bracelet, announcing their company's selection as the Morrison Foundation's exclusive event partner. The caption praised their unique vision and family values. My hands shook as I read the comments. Potential clients praising their work. Industry leaders offering congratulations. All built on stolen dreams and diverted funds. Family values, I whispered, something breaking loose inside me. That's what we're going with? I grabbed my keys. Grace caught my arm. Where are you going? To give Liam his chance to explain. The drive to his new apartment felt like crossing a boundary. He opened the door, surprise flickering across his face. Behind him, I caught glimpses of the life he'd built without me. Design mock-ups on the walls, Chloe's coat draped over a chair. Rowan, I saw the announcement. My voice stayed steady, surprising me. Congratulations on the Morrison account. That's what I wanted to discuss. He stepped back, letting me in. We could work together. Your marketing experience, our design work. Our? I picked up a framed photo of him and Chloe at some industry event. Like our savings? Our marriage? I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Liam. I set down the photo. I'm awake. His expression shifted. What does that mean? I pulled out my phone, showed him the gala invitation. I'll be there tomorrow night. Front row. You're attending? Something like fear crossed his face. Wouldn't miss it. I moved toward the door. After all, family should support family, right? Rowan, wait. But I was already gone, my decision crystallizing with each step. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice, about consequences, about showing the world the true cost of family values. Grace was waiting in my office when I returned. Well? I picked up the USB drive. Change of plans. We're not just exposing their fraud. What do you mean? I want everything public. The affair, the stolen money, the lies. I gripped the drive tighter. Let their precious clients see exactly who they're dealing with. It'll destroy them completely, Grace warned. No coming back from that kind of exposure. Good. I sat down, started typing. Because tomorrow night, Phoenix Creative isn't rising from any ashes. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about burning everything down and walking away from the flames. The gala invitation seemed to glow on my desk, no longer a weapon, but a promise. Tomorrow night, we'd all learn the true meaning of sacrifice. The Morrison Foundation gala sparkled like broken glass. I sat in the front row, watching Liam and Chloe work the crowd, their success built on the ruins of my trust. The USB drive felt heavy in my clutch, a digital bomb waiting to detonate. Grace touched my arm. 10 minutes until their presentation. Then Evelyn appeared, beaming with pride. Darling, why didn't you tell me you were involved with Phoenix Creative? Liam just said you're considering joining the team. My carefully constructed plan cracked. He what? Oh, was it supposed to be a surprise? Evelyn's face fell. He's announcing it during the presentation, said it's time to bring the family back together. The room tilted. Liam had outmaneuvered me, turning my revenge into his redemption story. I watched him approach the podium, Chloe at his side, both wearing matching smiles that didn't reach their eyes. He's trying to trap you, Grace whispered, make you look vindictive if you expose them now. The presentation began. Professional achievements, client testimonials, growth projections, all built on stolen dreams and diverted funds. My funds, our future. And now, Liam's voice carried across the ballroom, a special announcement. We're thrilled to welcome a new partner to Phoenix Creative. The screen behind him changed. My professional headshot appeared, along with my credentials. The audience applauded. Evelyn squeezed my hand. I stood, my chair scraping against the marble floor. The USB drive burned in my hand. One connection to the podium's laptop would expose everything. The affair, the fraud, the lies. But Liam's eyes met mine, challenging, almost pitying. Rowan has always believed in family, he continued smoothly, in second chances, in building something greater than ourselves. The crowd murmured appreciatively. I saw potential clients nodding, investors smiling. My revenge would now look like bitter rejection, professional suicide. Don't let him win, Grace urged. But Evelyn was crying happy tears. Other family members watched expectantly. Even Chloe managed to look hopeful, though the sapphire bracelet, my bracelet, glinted on her wrist like a taunt. I moved toward the podium, USB drive clutched tight. Liam extended his hand, camera flashes capturing what looked like a touching family reunion. Say something, he whispered, still smiling for the cameras. I took the microphone, my hand steady despite the chaos in my chest. The audience waited, my carefully planned revenge balanced on a knife's edge. Family, I started, my voice carrying across the silent room. It's a beautiful word, sacred, even. Liam's smile widened, victory in his eyes. But true family, I continued, doesn't steal from each other. His smile froze. True family doesn't take savings meant for fertility treatments and use them to fund affairs. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. True family, I held up the USB drive, keeps receipts. Rowan, Liam stepped forward, reaching for the microphone. You're upset, I understand. No, I pulled back. You understand marketing, image, manipulation, but you never understood family. I turned to the audience, to the investors and clients they'd courted with stolen money and borrowed prestige. Phoenix Creative was built on fraud. I have proof. Bank statements, emails, security footage. Would anyone like to see? Chaos erupted. Investors stood, demanding answers. Journalists rushed forward, cameras flashing. Chloe disappeared into the crowd, already distancing herself from the implosion. You've destroyed everything, Liam hissed, his mask finally cracking. No. I placed the USB drive in his hand. You did that yourself. I just refused to burn with you. I walked away, past the shouting investors, past the stunned family members, past the life I thought I wanted. Grace followed, her silence supportive. Outside, the night air felt clean, purifying. My phone buzzed with notifications, news alerts already picking up the story, professional contacts reaching out, family members expressing shock and support. Now what? Grace asked. I looked back at the glittering ballroom, where Liam's carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. Now, I said, we rise. The morning after the gala, I found Liam waiting on my doorstep, clutching a newspaper. The headline screamed, Phoenix Creative Scandal, Startup Built on Stolen Dreams. You've ruined us, his voice cracked. The investors are pulling out. Chloe's gone. Karma's expensive, isn't it? I moved to step past him. He grabbed my arm. I can fix this. We can fix this. I'll pay back everything. With what money? Grace emerged from her car, tablet in hand. The accounts are frozen. The authorities have questions about certain financial irregularities. Liam's face drained of color. What did you do? Me? I pulled free. I just followed the money. Your sister did the rest. Grace held up her tablet, displaying a complex web of transactions. Funny thing about fraud, it leaves breadcrumbs, especially when you're sloppy with the paperwork. You helped me with those accounts, Liam snarled at Grace. I knew you were hiding something. That's why I kept records. She smiled coldly. Family looking out for family, right? My phone buzzed. Evelyn calling again. I'd been dodging her since last night. Mom's devastated, Liam said. Is that what you wanted? To destroy our whole family? Don't you dare! My voice shook. Don't you dare use her against me. You did this. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every broken promise. That was you. I did it for us. The business was our chance. Our chance? I laughed, sharp and bitter. While I was working overtime to afford fertility treatments, you were building a future with someone else, using my sacrifices to fund your escape. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I pulled out my phone, played the recording from the Grand Hotel. His voice, intimate and clear. Once Phoenix takes off, we'll have everything we dreamed of. Just us. He flinched at his own words. Did Chloe know? Grace asked. About the fertility treatments? Liam faltered. It wasn't relevant. Wasn't relevant? Something snapped inside me. Like our marriage wasn't relevant? Like my dreams weren't relevant? I loved you, he whispered. No, you loved what I could give you. My trust, my money, my silence. I opened my front door. But that's not love. That's theft. The police want to talk to you, Grace added. Something about misappropriation of funds, fraud, maybe worse. Liam's facade cracked completely. You can't do this. I'll lose everything. Funny. I stepped inside. That's exactly how I felt when I found out about Phoenix, about Chloe, about every lie you told while stealing our future. Rowan, please. The difference is, I turned back one last time. I didn't lose everything. I just lost the dead weight that was dragging me down. What do you want from me? His voice broke. Nothing. The truth of it hit me like sunrise. Not anymore. I closed the door on his protests, on the past, on the woman who had once believed in second chances and family above all. Grace followed me inside. Chloe's lawyer called. She's offering to testify about the financial misconduct in exchange for immunity. I sank onto my couch, suddenly exhausted. Of course she is. Are you okay? Through the window, I watched Liam walk away, shoulders slumped, newspaper crumpled in his fist. The man I'd married, the future I'd planned, the dreams I'd sacrificed for, all as insubstantial as morning mist. You know what's strange? I said finally. I thought revenge would feel like winning, but it just feels like freedom. Grace sat beside me, her presence steady and sure. Sometimes they're the same thing. My phone buzzed again. Evelyn. This time I answered, because sometimes freedom means facing the aftermath of the fire you've started. And sometimes from those ashes, something stronger rises. The sapphire bracelet caught the morning light as I placed it on Evelyn's kitchen table. She stared at it, hands wrapped around her untouched coffee mug. I thought you might want to return it, I said, since it came from your son's business account. No, she pushed it back toward me. Keep it, as a reminder. Of what? Betrayal? Revenge? Of your worth. Her voice carried the weight of her former principal's authority. Sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones we didn't want to learn. Through the window, I watched Grace talking to the forensic accountants in the driveway. The investigation into Phoenix Creative had revealed more victims, other stolen dreams, other diverted funds. Chloe had turned state's evidence, painting herself as another victim of Liam's manipulation. Did you read his letter? Evelyn asked. I nodded. Liam's final attempt at explanation sat unopened in my purse, his familiar handwriting now strange and distant. Are you going to open it? No. The certainty in my voice surprised us both. Some stories don't need an ending. My phone buzzed. Another news alert about the case. Liam's face stared back from the screen, haunted and hollow as he left the courthouse. The media loved the story. Ambitious entrepreneur brought down by his scorned wife and sister. Phoenix Creative burning in spectacular fashion. You know, Evelyn said carefully, revenge doesn't usually bring peace. This wasn't about revenge. Not really. I touched the bracelet's clasp. It was about truth, about consequences. And are you at peace? Before I could answer, Grace burst in, waving documents. You need to see this. We found something in the old accounts. She spread papers across the table, bank statements, transfer records, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to an unexpected destination. He didn't spend all the fertility treatment money, Grace explained. He invested it, under your name. The investment had grown, quietly accumulating value while we'd torn everything else apart. Ironic, isn't it? I laughed, but the sound caught in my throat. He actually did save for our future, just not the one we planned. What will you do with it? Evelyn asked. Through the window, I watched the forensic team pack up their files. Evidence of lives derailed, dreams deferred, trust broken, and rebuilt. I'm starting a foundation, I said, for families struggling with fertility treatments, people who've had to choose between their dreams and their dignity. Grace smiled. Phoenix rising? No. I picked up the bracelet, its sapphires no longer burning with betrayal, but shimmering with possibility. New Dawn Foundation, because some things deserve a fresh start. He asked about you, Evelyn said quietly, before they took him away. And what did you tell him? That sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's future, it's building your own. My phone buzzed again, the fertility clinic confirming my appointment to discuss options. Single motherhood, donor programs, different paths to the same dream. Keep the bracelet, I told Evelyn, standing to leave. Sell it, donate it. Let it help someone else's sacrifice mean something. She caught my hand. You're still family, you know, no matter what. I know. I squeezed her hand. Just a different kind than we planned. Outside, Grace waited by her car, already reviewing foundation proposals. The morning sun painted everything in new light, turning past shadows into future possibilities. I didn't look back at the bracelet on Evelyn's table, didn't need to. Some sacrifices become stepping stones. Some betrayals become bridges. And sometimes, the future we fight for isn't the one we originally wanted, but the one we needed all along. My phone buzzed one last time, another letter from Liam, digital this time. I deleted it unread. Some stories don't need an ending. They just need a new beginning.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I walked through the front door of my own home after our honeymoon. There, lounging on the sofa like they owned the place, were Doug's ex-wife Linda and their daughter Kristen. "What are you two doing here?" I demanded, my heart pounding. This was supposed to be the start of our new life together. Linda looked up from her magazine, her expression as cold as ice. "Hello, dear. Doug said we could stay for a while." Kristen didn't even bother looking up from her phone. "Yeah, he gave us keys and everything." I whirled around to face Doug, who had just entered from the kitchen. "Is this true? You let them move in without even asking me?" He had the decency to look sheepish. "Marianne, they needed a place to stay for a little bit. I didn't think you'd mind." "Not mind?" I sputtered. "This is our home, Doug, the home we're supposed to be starting our marriage in. Just the two of us." Linda skied loudly. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just temporary until Kristen and I get back on our feet." "You've been on your feet for 30 years, I shot back. "I'm not having house guests, especially not ones who treat me like an intruder." Doug tried to placate me. Now, let's not fight in front of the ladies. We'll work something out." But I could see it in his eyes. He had no intention of making them leave. This was my life now, an endless hostage situation with his insufferable former family. Kristen finally looked up, smirking at me. "If you can't handle a little company, maybe you shouldn't have married Dad." The cruel jab stung, but I refused to show weakness in front of her. Squaring my shoulders, I said evenly, "You're right, Kristen, which is why I'm leaving until they're gone for good." "Marianne!" Doug protested, finally showing a flicker of concern. But I was already heading for the stairs to pack a bag. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, I could hear Linda's shrill laughter floating up from below. "I told you she was too high-strung for you, Doug. This marriage won't last." Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away fiercely. After everything I'd been through in my life, I wouldn't let them see me crumble. I was Marianne Stevens, and for the first time in decades, I was putting myself first. I stormed out of the house, suitcase in hand, trying to ignore Doug's feeble protests behind me. How could he do this to me? To us? After everything we'd been through to finally be together, He was letting his insufferable ex-wife and her brat of a daughter walk all over our marriage. My friend Susan didn't even blink when I showed up on her doorstep, red-faced and furious. "Come in, honey," she said, wrapping me in a warm hug. "Want to tell me what that bastard did this time?" As I vented about Linda and Kristen's unannounced arrival, Susan's face grew thunderous. The nerve of them, inviting themselves into your home like that. And Doug just rolled over as usual, I'm guessing? Nodding miserably, I sank onto her plush sofa. He claims it's just temporary, but you know how he is. Once they get their hooks in, they'll never leave. "Well, you're welcome to stay here as long as you need," Susan said firmly. "Lord knows I've had my fair share of unwanted house guests thanks to Carl's idiot family." I managed a watery smile, grateful for her steadfast friendship over the decades. While our husbands came and went, taking us for granted, Susan and I had been each other's constants. Over the next few days, I tried to make the best of my sudden displacement, but it wasn't easy. Everywhere I looked in Susan's cozy home, I was reminded of happier times. Photos of her and Carl on vacation, little mementos from her grandkids. My own dreams of a blissful new chapter with Doug, growing old together, seemed to be crumbling. "You know, I saw Doug at the grocery store yesterday," Susan mentioned one evening as we watched mindless TV. "He looked miserable." I snorted. "Yeah, well, he made his bed. Let him lie in it with the she-devils." "Don't you think you're being a tad harsh, dear?" She gave me a pointed look. "After all, you did marry the man." Bristling, I shot back. "And he married me, not them. We're supposed to be starting fresh, just the two of us. But no, he has to let his parasite family suck him dry as usual." Susan held up a placating hand. "I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You know I'm on your side. But maybe once you've both cooled off, you can have an actual conversation about boundaries?" I knew she was right, as much as it pained me to admit it. As infuriating as Doug could be, shutting him out completely wouldn't solve anything. I'd have to go back eventually and stand my ground. Little did I know, the war was only just beginning. Because when I did return home, I discovered just how far Linda and Kristen were willing to go to make my life a living hell. After a few days of licking my wounds at Susan's place, I knew I had to go back and face the music. As much as Doug had hurt me by letting Linda and Kristen invade our home, running away wouldn't solve anything. I was determined to stand my ground. I steeled myself as I pulled into the driveway, half expecting Linda to be waiting on the porch like a vulture. But the house was quiet, almost eerily so. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. "Hello?" I called out tentatively. "Doug? It's me." No answer. Frowning, I wandered further into the living room. That's when I noticed it. My mother's antique locket lying haphazardly on the coffee table, the delicate chain tangled. A wave of fury washed over me as I snatched it up, cradling the precious heirloom in my palm. How dare they treat something so precious with such careless disrespect? The sound of giggling from the kitchen made me spin around. Kristen stood there, smirking at me over a glass of wine. "There you are," she said airily. "We were wondering when you'd be back to clean up after us. I live here," I shot back, clutching the locket tightly. "Unlike you. Now where is your mother?" Kristen shrugged, taking another sip. "Out with Dad, doing whatever." "You know how they are." Of course I did. Linda had always been able to wrap Doug around her manicured finger, even after their divorce. I felt a pang of hurt that he was out gallivanting with her instead of at home with his new wife. "Well, while you're here as my unwanted guest," I said through gritted teeth, "I'll thank you not to touch my personal belongings, especially things that were my mother's." Kristen's eyes danced with cruel amusement. "What, this old thing?" She nodded at the locket. "I was just trying it on. No need to get your granny panties in a twist." My temper flared, but I refused to rise to her juvenile taunts. "It's not yours to borrow or try on or whatever. It's mine. Do you understand? My private property that you have no right to." "Geez, okay," Kristen rolled her eyes exaggeratedly. "I was just having some fun, but whatever. No need to bite my head off, step monster." The mocking jab stung, but I refused to show it. Clutching the locket protectively, I brushed past her toward the stairs. "That's right. Go pout in your room," she called after me. "Leave the fun to the real ladies of the house." I could hear her laughter echoing behind me as I hurried up to the bedroom, fighting back angry tears. This was my home, my sanctuary, and they were determined to make me feel like an outcast. As I gently laid the locket back in its usual place on my dresser, I could almost feel my mother's calming presence. She had been such a strong, dignified woman, always keeping her head held high even in the face of adversity. I needed to be more like her, I realized. To stop cowering and letting Linda and Kristen run roughshod over me with their cruelty. If Doug was too weak to stand up to them, then I would have to be the strong one, because this was my home, my rules, and if they refused to respect that, then they could get out. No more Mrs. Nice newlywed. From now on, they'd be dealing with a very different Mary Ann. After my confrontation with Kristen, I resolved to stop letting Linda and her daughter walk all over me. This was my home, my marriage, and if Doug wasn't going to stand up for me, then I would have to stand up for myself. The next morning, I marched into the kitchen to find Linda sipping coffee and reading the newspaper like she owned the place. "We need to talk," I said firmly. She looked up, one perfectly arched eyebrow raised. "Well, good morning to you too, dear." Refusing to be cowed by her condescending tone, I plowed ahead. "This living situation isn't working for me. You and Kristen have overstepped far too many boundaries." Linda set down her mug with an audible clink. "Excuse me? We're Doug's family. This is our home as much as yours." "No, it's not," I shot back. "It's my home that I share with my husband. You're just guests here, whether Doug wants to admit it or not." She laughed derisively. "Is that what he told you? Oh, Mary Ann, you really are a naive little thing, aren't you?" The belittling way she said my name made my blood boil, but I kept my temper in check. "I don't care what Doug has or hasn't said. This is between you and me now. If you two can't respect me and my home, then I want you out." For a moment, Linda looked almost impressed at my boldness. Then her expression hardened. "You don't have that authority here. This is still Doug's house, and he'll never kick us out, you mark my words." "We'll see about that," I said grimly. "I'm putting my foot down on this, Linda. The disrespect ends now." She rose from her chair, eyes glittering with malice. "Or what? You'll cry and pout until you get your way, like the spoiled brat you are." The insult stung, but I refused to rise to her taunts. Lifting my chin defiantly, I said, "I'm going to give Doug an ultimatum. It's them or me, and if he picks you again, then our marriage is over for good." A cruel smile curved Linda's red lips. "An ultimatum? How delightfully dramatic of you, but you're only digging your own grave, Mary Ann. Doug will never choose you over his family." "That's what you think," I said, turning on my heel. "But you're about to get a rude awakening." As I left the kitchen, I could hear her mocking laughter following me. But this time, it didn't make me want to cry. It only strengthened my resolve. Linda thought she had me all figured out, but she was wrong. Dead wrong. Because for the first time since meeting Doug, I was seeing the full truth. He was nothing but a weak, spineless man completely controlled by his manipulative ex-wife, and I was done being a doormat. When Doug came home that evening, I didn't give him a chance to take off his coat before laying into him. "We need to talk," I said, arms crossed. "This living situation with Linda and Kristen, it's over, as of today." He blinked owlishly at me. "Mary Ann, I know it's been hard having them here, but it's only temporary." "No," I cut him off. "It's not temporary, it's permanent unless I put a stop to it. They've invaded our home, our marriage, and you've just let it happen." Doug's face reddened. "Now hold on, they're my family, and I'm your wife," I shouted, finally letting my anger and hurt pour out. "Or at least, I'm supposed to be. How could you let them treat me this way, like some intruder in my own home?" He opened and closed his mouth, looking utterly befuddled, pathetic. "It's them or me, Doug," I said, lowering my voice to an icy calm. "You either put your foot down and get them out of here, or I'm leaving for good this time. No more second chances." For a long moment he simply gaped at me. Then, finally, "Mary Ann, you can't be serious." I felt something inside me harden at the weakness in his voice. This man who was supposed to be my partner would never put me first. Not really. "I've never been more serious in my life," I said quietly. "The choice is yours." As I turned and walked away, leaving him to make his decision, I realized this was about more than just winning a battle against Linda. This was about reclaiming my self-respect, my sense of self-worth that had been slowly chipped away. One way or another, I was done being a victim. Either Doug manned up and took my side, or I walked away from this toxic situation for good. The choice was his. But the power? That was all mine now. After giving Doug my ultimatum, I waited with bated breath to see what he would do. A big part of me didn't have much hope. He was so spineless when it came to Linda and Kristen, always putting their wants above my needs as his wife. But I had to try, one last time, to make him see reason. The next few days were tense, to say the least. Doug avoided me as much as possible, no doubt dreading having to actually make a difficult decision for once in his life. Meanwhile, Linda and Kristen swanned around the house, smug as can be, clearly thinking they had already won. I refused to be cowed, though. I started packing up my belongings just in case and making preparations to move out if needed. My friend Susan was ready with a spare room, and I knew my son Nathan would support me too. Finally, after nearly a week of agonizing silence, Doug approached me in the kitchen. His expression was pinched, miserable. "Marianne," he began heavily, "I've given this a lot of thought." I crossed my arms, tensing for the blow I feared was coming. "And?" he sighed, not quite meeting my eyes. I can't kick Linda and Kristen out. They're my family." White-hot fury lanced through me, but I kept my expression stony. "I'm your family now, too, in case you've forgotten. Your wife." I know. Doug ran a hand through his thinning hair. "But they have nowhere else to go. Linda's finances are, well, they're not great, and Kristen just got laid off from her job." Of course, the poor, helpless victims who always needed rescuing from dear old Dad. I felt disgusted, both with them and with Doug's transparent excuses. "So that's it, then?" I said, voice shaking despite my best efforts. "You're choosing them over me, over our marriage?" He flinched at the hurt in my tone. "Marianne, please, it's not that simple." "It is that simple," I exploded, finally losing my temper. "It's them or me, just like I said, and you've made your choice loud and clear." Doug opened his mouth, but I didn't let him get another word out. "Don't bother trying to explain or backpedal," I said, jabbing a finger at his chest. "I'm done being second fiddle to your parasite family. From now on, you can support them yourself since they're so helpless." His eyes went wide. What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm leaving," I said, my voice hardening with resolve. For good this time. I should have listened to my instincts from the start instead of marrying someone so weak and spineless. Doug sputtered incoherently, but I brushed past him, heading for the stairs to finish packing. As I went, I caught a glimpse of Linda and Kristen hovering in the hallway, identical smug smiles on their faces. "Have fun with your new roommates," I tossed over my shoulder. "You've more than earned them." Kristen's grin only widened. "Don't let the door hit you on the way out, step monster." I didn't bother responding, just kept climbing the stairs with my head held high. I was finally free of their toxic web, no longer letting them manipulate and control me. As I packed up the last of my things, tucking my mother's locket safely away, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. This was the right decision, the only decision that preserved my self-respect. When I came back downstairs, suitcase in hand, Doug was waiting for me, with red-rimmed eyes. "Marianne, please," he said hoarsely. "Don't go. We can work this out." I shook my head, amazed at his deluded optimism even now. "It's too late for that, Doug. You made your choice." Then I brushed past him, out the door and into the brisk evening air, leaving my disastrous marriage behind without a second glance. As I climbed into my car, I caught sight of Nathan's number on my phone. A sad smile tugged at my lips as I hit call. It was time to go stay with my son for a while, regroup and plan my next move. This was a new beginning, as painful as it was, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. After leaving Doug and that toxic situation behind, I felt equal parts liberated and adrift. On one hand, I was finally free of the manipulation and disrespect, but on the other, I was now 62 years old and essentially starting over from scratch. Thankfully, I had my son Nathan to lean on during those first few difficult weeks. He welcomed me into his humble apartment with open arms, no questions asked. "I'm just glad you finally saw the light about that idiot," he said bluntly as I unpacked my meager belongings. "Doug was a leech from the start." I managed a rueful smile. "You were right all along. I should have listened to you instead of letting his charm blind me." Nathan shrugged, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "What's done is done, Mom. Now it's time to focus on you for once, instead of some deadbeat husband." His words resonated deeply. For most of my adult life, I had defined myself through the men in my world. First my late husband, then Doug. But who was I really, outside of being someone's wife? It was time to rediscover Marianne, the strong, resilient woman who had survived so much already. With Nathan's encouragement, I started looking for jobs to get back into editing, my former career before retirement. It felt wonderful to dust off those long-neglected skills, to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of fact-checking and line edits. Within a month, I had landed a few decent freelance gigs to bring in some income. It wasn't much, but it was mine, money I had earned completely independently of any man. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Nathan said simply when I shared the news. Those 4 words meant more to me than he could possibly know. Slowly but surely, I began rebuilding my sense of self-worth. No longer was I the woman who had been betrayed and belittled by her husband's family. I was a self-sufficient career woman, paying her own way and holding her head high. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were days when the loneliness and heartbreak over my failed marriage threatened to overwhelm me. I missed having a true partner, someone to share my life with. But I refused to rebound recklessly, to repeat the same mistakes. I needed to be whole and happy on my own first, before even considering letting someone new into my life. In those darker moments, I would take out my mother's locket, the one Kristen had so carelessly tossed aside, and find strength in running my fingers over the tarnished gold links. This heirloom was a reminder that I came from a long line of resilient women who had endured and overcome their own struggles. If they could persevere, so could I. The months passed in a blur of work, time with Nathan, and the occasional social outing with my friend Susan. Slowly, steadily, the gaping wound of my divorce scabbed over and began to heal. Then, one sunny afternoon while I was editing in the local park, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. "Marianne, it's Doug." I stiffened at the sound of his voice, equal parts angry and caught off guard. Part of me wanted to immediately hang up, to sever that tie completely. But another part, a deeper part, knew I owed it to myself to hear him out one last time, to slam the door decisively instead of leaving it cracked open. "What do you want, Doug?" I asked evenly, proud of how steady I kept my voice. There was an audible exhale on the other end of the line, as if he'd been steeling himself for this conversation. "Marianne, I made a terrible mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. And I need you to know how sorry I am." I said nothing, simply listening as he plowed ahead. "Linda and Kristen, they took advantage of me in ways I didn't even realize at first. Financially, emotionally, you were right about them all along, and I let them completely ruin what we had because I was too weak to stand up to them." Doug's voice grew thicker with emotion, but I refused to let myself feel sorry for him. "Not yet. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I see the truth now, and I'm working on being a better, stronger man for me, not for anyone else. You deserved so much better than what I gave you, Marianne, and I hope someday you can find the happiness you deserve." The line went silent then. I could have responded, could have unleashed all the pent-up hurt and anger I'd been carrying around for months, but in that moment I realized I didn't need to. Doug's words, his obvious regret, it was enough. Because for the first time since our marriage fell apart, I felt completely free of him. No anger, no sadness, no lingering doubts. Just peace. So instead of yelling or rehashing old wounds, I simply said, "Thank you for calling, Doug. I wish you the best." And then I hung up the phone, a small but serene smile on my face as I turned my attention back to my work. Another chapter was closed, making way for whatever came next. And this time, I had no doubts. The best was yet to come. A few months after Doug's apologetic phone call, I was settled into my new routine as a self-sufficient single woman. The editing jobs were keeping me busy, and the income, while modest, was enough to cover my humble apartment's rent. For the first time in years, I was standing on my own 2 feet financially. Nathan and I had grown even closer in the wake of my divorce, bonding over our mutual disdain for Doug's spinelessness. We made a point to have a mother-son dinner at least once a week to catch up. "You seem good, Mom. Really good," he said over plates of pasta one night, studying me with an appraising eye. "This independent life looks good on you," I smiled, warmed by his words. I am good, Nathan. Better than I've been in a long time, if I'm being honest. He nodded approvingly. That's what I like to hear. No deadweight ex-husbands dragging you down anymore. Speaking of deadweights, I said slowly, I actually got an interesting call from Doug last week. Nathan's easygoing expression clouded over. Oh, yeah? What did that weasel want? Briefly, I recounted Doug's apology, his admission that Linda and Kristen had been using him financially, that he was trying to be a better man now, but understood if I could never forgive him. To my surprise, Nathan didn't immediately launch into a diatribe against his former stepfather. Instead, he was silent for a long moment, seemingly digesting it all. Finally, he said, Well, isn't that a kick in the pants? The great Doug, brought low by his own selfish family. I know, I said with a rueful chuckle, a real case of karma finally catching up with him. So, Nathan fixed me with an intent look. How did it feel, hearing him grovel like that? I considered the question carefully. How had I felt in that moment, when the man who had betrayed and belittled me was reduced to begging for my forgiveness? Honestly, it felt empowering, I said slowly, like I was finally getting the apology and admission I deserved all along. But it didn't make me angry or bitter anymore, just at peace. Nathan's mouth curved into a small smile of approval. Good, you're way too good for him, Mom. He's the one who should be haunted by what he threw away. His words resonated deeply, because in that moment I realized that was exactly what this was. My long-awaited revenge against Doug and his wretched family. Not through shouting or cruelty, but simply by rising above it all with grace and dignity, by rebuilding my life into something stronger, by refusing to be a victim anymore. While Doug was left to grovel and drown in the consequences of his own poor choices, I was thriving. Embracing my independence, rediscovering my strength, surrounding myself with people who truly loved me. That was the ultimate revenge, not needing him at all anymore. Over the following weeks, I couldn't help but revel in my newfound freedom a little. I went out to dinners with Susan, took a weekend trip to the beach on a whim, and even reconnected with a few old friends from my college days. My life was full in a way it hadn't been in decades, unburdened by the toxicity of Doug and his family. And if the occasional rumor about their downward spiral reached my ears, well, I didn't deny the petty sense of satisfaction it brought. Apparently, without me as his meal ticket, Doug's finances had tanked spectacularly. Linda and Kristen were furious, of course, but their anger was meaningless to me now. They had made their greedy beds, and now they could lie in them. As for me, I had reclaimed my power, my self-worth, and I had no intentions of ever letting another person take that away from me again. When Susan asked one day if I had any regrets about the whole Doug situation, I didn't even have to think before answering. Not a single one, I said with a serene smile. Leaving him was the best decision I ever made. And in that moment, I knew it was true. The woman I was now, confident, self-assured, in control of her own destiny, was worth all the heartache and struggle it took to get here. My rebirth, my renewal, my ultimate revenge, it was all worth it. Over a year had passed since I walked out on Doug and his toxic family, and my life had blossomed in ways I never could have imagined. The freelance editing jobs were keeping me comfortable, if not wealthy, and I had rekindled so many old friendships that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. But easily the brightest spark in my newfound independence was an unexpected reconnection from my distant past. My high school sweetheart, Mark. We had dated all through those carefree teenage years before ultimately going our separate ways after graduation. Mark had joined the military while I headed off to college, and we had eventually lost touch amid the busyness of adulthood. Then, one sunny afternoon, I logged onto Facebook to see a friend request from a vaguely familiar name. Curious, I opened it to find a message from none other than Mark himself. "Mary Ann? It's me, Mark Patterson, your prom date from Westview High. I know it's been forever, but I was hoping we could catch up." I stared at the words on the screen, a wave of nostalgia crashing over me. Of course, how could I have forgotten those bright hazel eyes, that warm, crooked smile? We may have lost contact over the decades, but those memories came rushing back like they were yesterday. On a whim, I accepted the request and sent a message back, and just like that, we were off and running, trading stories about our lives, reminiscing about old times and flirting with an easy familiarity despite all the years apart. A few weeks of messaging turned into exchanging phone numbers, which turned into hours-long conversations that kept me smiling like a love-struck teenager again. Mark had a way of making me feel cherished, valued, the way a good partner should. Finally, we made plans to meet up for coffee and catch up in person. I spent far too long fretting over what to wear before forcing myself to take a breath. This was Mark, the boy who had once loved me for my quirks, not in spite of them. When I saw him waiting at the cafe, hair more silver than blonde but eyes still bright with warmth, it was like no time had passed at all. We hugged, exchanged giddy "you haven't aged a day" compliments, and immediately fell into an easy rapport over steaming mugs. For hours we laughed and reminisced, picking up like we'd never been apart. I told him all about my disastrous marriage to Doug, the betrayal and heartache that had ultimately set me free, and he shared his own stories of loves lost and found over the years, including a painful divorce of his own. "I always wondered what happened to you, Marianne," he said at one point, covering my hand with his calloused palm. "Part of me always hoped our paths would cross again someday." I felt a flutter in my chest at his tender words, at the open affection in his gaze. This was what true connection felt like. Honest, comfortable, cherished. Nothing like the manipulation and toxicity I'd endured with Doug. From that first meeting, Mark effortlessly wove himself back into my life like he had never left. We went on proper dates, dinners, movies, long walks through the park, reliving our youth. With each outing, I felt lighter and happier than I had in years. My friends and family adored Mark, charmed by his old-fashioned courtship and ability to make me smile so freely. Even cynical Nathan had to admit, he's a major upgrade from Doug, that's for sure. In Mark's company, I was able to completely shed the insecurities and doubts that my failed marriage had instilled. He valued me for who I was, respected the boundaries I set, and never once made me feel like a burden or afterthought. This was the real love I had been searching for all along, passionate yet stable, challenging but supportive, a true partnership of equals, built on years of history and hard-won wisdom. The first time Mark told me he loved me, I didn't hesitate before saying it back, because in my heart I knew this was the redemption I deserved after so much heartache. A love that filled my soul instead of diminishing it. Of course, I couldn't help but revel in the delicious irony that while Doug was left to grovel and flounder in the wake of his selfishness, I had reclaimed everything. My independence, my confidence, and ultimately, a love that made me deliriously happy. As Mark and I strode hand in hand through the sunshine one brilliant spring day, I caught a glimpse of my radiant smile reflected in a storefront window. In that moment, I made a silent vow to never let anyone tarnish my light again. This was my season, my rebirth, my renaissance, and I had no intentions of letting it or this profound love slip through my fingers. It was a typical Tuesday morning, the kind where everything felt routine and predictable. I had just finished my first cup of coffee and was about to head out to the dental clinic when I noticed a small package on the doorstep. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, no return address, just my name scrawled across the top in a hurried hand. The air felt suddenly tense, a chill creeping up my spine as I picked it up. "Hey, Louis," I called out, trying to mask the unease in my voice. "Did you order something weird?" Louis, my husband, appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. He gave me a quizzical look, shaking his head. "Not that I remember. What is it?" I shrugged, tearing at the paper. Inside was a broken baby doll, its limbs twisted grotesquely, and a note that made my heart drop. "You'll never be a real mother." For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the note, my mind racing. It felt like a punch to the gut, a cruel reminder of the pressures that had been quietly building in our lives. Pressures from Elaine, my mother-in-law, who never missed a chance to remind me that time was ticking. "Kelly, what is it?" Louis asked, his voice laced with concern as he stepped closer. I handed him the note without a word. His eyes widened, and I saw a mix of confusion and anger cross his face. Who would do this? I shook my head, trying to push back the rising tide of emotions. "I have no idea," I lied, though a part of me had a sinking suspicion. Elaine had been relentless lately, her subtle digs and not-so-subtle hints that it was time for grandchildren. She had always been traditional, the kind of woman who believed in family above all else. even if it meant bulldozing over other people's boundaries. But this was a new low. Maybe it's just some sick joke, Lewis suggested, though his tone lacked conviction. We should call the police. I could see he was torn, wanting to protect me, but also not wanting to believe his mother could be involved in something so malicious. I wanted to believe that too, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. Let's not jump to conclusions, I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. I'll just throw it away. It's probably nothing. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced either. We both knew this wasn't just nothing. It was a threat, a reminder of the battle I was fighting, both with Elaine and within myself. Later that day, as I worked on a patient, my mind kept drifting back to the package. I tried to focus on the rhythmic scraping of the dental tools, the familiar routine that usually grounded me. But today it was just noise, a backdrop to the chaos swirling in my head. During lunch, I sat alone in the break room, picking at my salad. My phone buzzed with a text from Lewis. We need to talk tonight. Simple, but it carried the weight of unspoken worries. I couldn't help but think back to the last family dinner. Elaine's pointed questions about when we were planning to settle down. Each question felt like a jab, a reminder that in her eyes, my career was just a placeholder until real life began. As the day wore on, I tried to shake off the feeling that something had shifted. The package was a catalyst, pushing me to confront the uncomfortable truth that Elaine's expectations were suffocating me. And the worst part, I wasn't sure if Lewis was ready to stand up to her, or if he even wanted to. When I got home, Lewis was waiting, the package gone but its presence still looming over us. We need to figure this out, Callie, he said, his voice steady but his eyes full of uncertainty. I nodded, feeling the weight of the decision we had to make. Yeah, we do. As we sat down to talk, I realized this was just the beginning. The package was more than just a cruel joke. It was a sign that things were about to get a lot more complicated. And as much as I wanted to run from it, I knew there was no escaping the storm that was coming. I just hoped we were strong enough to weather it together. That weekend, we found ourselves at Elaine's house for another one of her infamous family dinners. The air was thick with the smell of roasted chicken and something else, tension. I could feel it prickling at my skin as soon as we stepped through the door. Elaine greeted us with her usual smile, but there was a sharpness in her eyes that made my stomach churn. Callie, Lewis, she chimed, pulling us into a quick embrace. I'm so glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, trying to keep my tone light. Lewis squeezed my hand, a silent reminder that we were in this together, even if it felt like we were walking into a lion's den. Dinner started off well enough, with the usual small talk and polite laughter. But it wasn't long before Elaine steered the conversation to her favorite topic, grandchildren. You know, I ran into Mrs. Thompson the other day, Elaine began, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. Her daughter just had twins. Can you imagine the joy? Lewis shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and I could feel his silent plea for me to stay calm. That's wonderful for them, I said, forcing a smile. Elaine's gaze locked onto mine, her smile never wavering. It just makes me think about how lovely it would be to have little ones running around here. I felt the words like a slap, but I held my ground. We're focusing on other things right now, Elaine. Her eyes narrowed just a fraction. Of course, dear. But you know, time waits for no one. Lewis cleared his throat, trying to defuse the tension. Mom, we've talked about this. Elaine raised her hands in mock surrender. Oh, I'm just saying. You two would make such wonderful parents. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of forced conversation, my mind replaying her words over and over. Each one was like a needle, poking at the insecurities I tried so hard to bury. After dinner, as we helped clean up, Elaine cornered me in the kitchen. Callie, dear, she said, her voice low and conspiratorial. I just want what's best for you and Lewis. I paused, wiping a plate dry with more force than necessary. I know you do, Elaine. She leaned in, her expression softening in a way that made me wary. I just worry sometimes, about you and your choices. There it was, the not-so-subtle dig. I met her gaze, refusing to back down. Our choices are just that, ours. Elaine's smile tightened. Of course, but I do hope you won't let your career come between you and family. I opened my mouth to respond, but Lewis appeared, sensing the brewing storm. Everything okay in here? Perfect, I said, handing him the plate. Just finishing up. As we drove home, the silence between us was heavy. I could feel Lewis's eyes on me, waiting for the inevitable. Callie, he began, his voice tentative. I know tonight was a lot. I nodded, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. It's always a lot with her. I'll talk to her, he promised, though we both knew it was a promise he'd made before. I don't want you to feel pressured. I sighed, feeling the weight of the evening settle over me. It's not just about pressure, Lewis. It's about respect. He reached for my hand, his grip reassuring. I know, and I'm sorry. I want us to be okay. I squeezed his hand back, wishing it were that simple. Me too. The next morning, as I prepared for work, I found a message from an unknown number on my phone. Heard about the dinner. She'll never change. It was cryptic, unsettling. My thoughts immediately went to Elaine, but something told me this was different. A new player in a game I hadn't realized I was part of. I showed the message to Lewis, who frowned, his mind working through the implications. Do you think it's her? I shook my head, unsure. I don't know, but it feels like someone else is involved. As I went through the motions at work, the message gnawed at me. It was a reminder that this wasn't just about family dinners and passive-aggressive comments. There was something deeper, a current of betrayal and secrets running beneath the surface. That night, I found myself on the porch, staring at the stars and wondering what was coming next. The cracks in our foundation were growing, and I wasn't sure how much longer we could hold everything together. But one thing was clear. I was done playing by Elaine's rules. It was time to find out who was really pulling the strings and why. I just hoped I was ready for what I might uncover. A few days after that unsettling message, I was at the clinic, trying to focus on work, when my phone buzzed with a text from a friend. It was a link to an online forum, one where people shared community gossip and complaints. My name was in the headline. I clicked the link, my heart pounding. The post was a long, rambling accusation about how I had supposedly mishandled a past pregnancy, leading to a miscarriage. The words were cruel, twisting the knife in a wound I had thought was long healed. The post was anonymous, but I had a sinking feeling about who was behind it. That night, I sat on the couch, staring at the screen, my hands shaking. Lewis walked in, his face falling when he saw my expression. Callie, what's wrong? I handed him the phone, unable to speak. As he read, his face darkened, anger flashing in his eyes. This is insane. Who would do this? Who do you think? I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He sat down beside me, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. We need to talk to her. I nodded, though the thought of confronting Elaine filled me with dread. But I knew we couldn't ignore it any longer. It was time to face the storm head-on. The next day, we drove to Elaine's house. The tension in the car was palpable, each of us lost in our thoughts. When we arrived, Elaine greeted us with her usual warmth, but I could see the flicker of something else in her eyes. Come in, she said, ushering us into the living room. To what do I owe this surprise visit? Lewis wasted no time, his voice firm. Mom, we need to talk about something serious. Elaine's smile faltered, but she gestured for us to sit. Of course, dear. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath, meeting her gaze. There's a rumor going around about me, about a miscarriage. It's vicious and false. Elaine blinked, her expression carefully neutral. Oh, Callie, I'm so sorry to hear that. People can be so cruel. I could feel the anger rising, a hot tide threatening to spill over. Elaine, this isn't just gossip. This is personal. And it feels like it's coming from someone who knows us. Her eyes widened, the picture of innocence. Are you suggesting I had something to do with it? Lewis leaned forward, his voice steady but edged with steel. Mom, we just want to get to the bottom of this. It's tearing us apart. Elaine's gaze flickered between us, a moment of hesitation before she spoke. I would never do anything to hurt you, Lewis. Or you, Callie. The denial hung in the air, heavy and unconvincing. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence was mounting, and my patience was wearing thin. As we left, my mind was a swirl of emotions. Elaine's words had been smooth, but there was something in the way she had avoided eye contact, the slight tremor in her voice. That left me unsettled. Later that evening, as I sat on the porch, trying to make sense of it all, Mr. Jennings, our neighbor, shuffled over. He had a knack for appearing at the most opportune times. Evening, Callie, he said, settling into the chair beside me. Heard about the trouble you're having. I nodded, grateful for his presence. It's been a rough few days. He looked thoughtful, his gaze fixed on the horizon. You know, sometimes the people we trust the most can surprise us. Not always in good ways. I glanced at him, the weight of his words sinking in. You think there's more to this? Mr. Jennings shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. Just saying, keep your eyes open. You never know who might be watching your back. As he left, his words lingered, a whisper of doubt and possibility. I realized that Elaine might not be the only one with a stake in this twisted game. The unexpected twist was that I had allies I hadn't counted on, and enemies I hadn't seen coming. With this new perspective, the theme of justice and revenge took on a deeper meaning. It wasn't just about confronting Elaine anymore. It was about uncovering the truth, no matter where it led or who it implicated. I went to bed that night with a sense of determination. The path ahead was tangled with lies and betrayal, but I was ready to face it. Whatever it took, I would find the truth and reclaim my life from the shadows. The following week, life seemed to return to a semblance of normalcy, but the tension between Lewis and me was palpable. We were both on edge, waiting for the next shoe to drop. It came during a quiet evening at home, when Lewis received a phone call that changed everything. I watched as he answered, his face shifting from confusion to disbelief. "What do you mean, she's here?" he asked, his voice rising. He glanced at me, eyes wide with something between panic and anger. "I'll be right there." He hung up, running a hand through his hair. "Callie, it's Amber. She's at Mom's house." I blinked, trying to process this new twist. "Amber? What is she doing there?" "I don't know," he replied, grabbing his keys. "But we need to find out." The drive to Elaine's was silent, the air thick with unspoken questions. When we arrived, Elaine's door was ajar, and raised voices spilled out into the night. We stepped inside to find Amber standing in the living room, her expression a mix of determination and frustration. Elaine sat across from her, arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. "What's going on?" Lewis demanded, his voice cutting through the tension. Amber turned to us, relief washing over her features. "I came to talk to Elaine. I thought she should know how her actions are affecting you too." Elaine's eyes flashed, but she remained silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Amber, you didn't have to do this," I said, touched by her unexpected support. She shook her head, her gaze steady. "I couldn't just stand by. Elaine, you need to stop. This isn't fair to them." Elaine's silence was deafening, the weight of her stubbornness filling the room. But there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that made me pause. "Mom," Lewis said, stepping forward, his voice softer now. "We just want to understand why." Elaine's facade cracked, her voice trembling slightly. "I only wanted what's best for you, Lewis. I thought maybe Amber could help you see reason." The implication hung heavy in the air, the suggestion that Lewis should reconsider his choices, his marriage. It was a betrayal wrapped in concern, a twist that cut deeper than any rumor. Amber's expression hardened. "Elaine, I'm engaged. I moved on, and so has Lewis. You need to accept that." The room fell silent, the truth settling over us like a shroud. Elaine's meddling had reached a breaking point, and there was no turning back. I took a deep breath, the anger and hurt giving way to a newfound clarity. "Elaine, we love each other. That's not going to change. But we need you to respect our choices." Elaine looked at Lewis, her eyes pleading. I don't want you to make a mistake." Lewis's voice was firm, but gentle. The only mistake would be losing Callie because of all this. The power dynamics shifted in that moment, the strength of our resolve standing against Elaine's fear of losing control. It was a turning point, a chance to redefine our boundaries. Amber nodded, her presence a reminder of the support we had, even from unexpected places. "You too deserve to be happy. Don't let anyone take that away." As we left Elaine's house, the tension between Lewis and me began to ease, replaced by a sense of solidarity. We were in this together, and we would face whatever came next as a team. In the car, Lewis reached for my hand, his grip reassuring. "I'm sorry for everything, Callie. I should have stood up to her sooner." I squeezed his hand, feeling a renewed sense of hope. We both could have done things differently. But we're here now, and that's what matters. The drive home felt lighter, the weight of uncertainty lifting as we embraced the path forward. The theme of revenge had transformed into one of protection, not just for ourselves, but for the life we were building together. As we pulled into our driveway, I realized that this was more than just a fight against Elaine's interference. It was a chance to redefine what family meant to us, to carve out a space where love and respect could thrive. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face it, knowing that whatever happened, we would face it together. The idea of adoption had been a lighthouse in the storm, a guiding hope that Lewis and I clung to as we navigated the choppy waters of family drama. We had begun researching agencies, discussing what it would mean to bring a child into our lives on our own terms. It was a chance to redefine what family meant, away from Elaine's expectations and manipulations. But hope has a way of being tested. It was a quiet Saturday morning when the phone rang. I picked it up, expecting a telemarketer or a wrong number, but the voice on the other end was familiar, and not in a comforting way. "Callie, it's Elaine." I tensed, bracing myself. "What do you want, Elaine?" She hesitated, a rare pause that usually preceded something unpleasant. "I heard about the adoption plans. I just wanted to say, I don't think it's a good idea." I felt my temper flare, the frustration bubbling over. "And why is that, Elaine?" Her voice was cool, calculated. "A child deserves a real family, not one that's incomplete." The words were a dagger, twisting in the wound. I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my voice steady. A real family is built on love and commitment, not on your outdated notions. Elaine's silence was a challenge, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. "Louis should reconsider," she finally said. "Think about what's best for him." I hung up, my hands shaking. It was clear she wouldn't back down, not without a fight. And I was done playing by her rules. That evening, as Louis and I sat down to dinner, I recounted the conversation, my voice thick with emotion. "She just won't stop, Louis. She wants to control everything." He listened, his brow furrowed in concern. "We can't let her dictate our lives, Callie. We have to stand firm." I nodded, but the weight of the situation pressed heavily on me. "But what if she finds a way to sabotage the adoption? What if she never accepts us?" Louis reached across the table, taking my hand in his. "Then we'll deal with it together. We can't let her fear control us." His words were a bomb, but the doubts lingered, gnawing at the edges of my resolve. I knew Elaine was capable of more than just words. She had already shown how far she was willing to go. The next day, as I was leaving for work, Mr. Jennings waved me over from his porch. "Morning, Callie," he said, his eyes sharp and knowing. "Heard you might be expanding the family." I smiled, though it felt fragile. "We're considering adoption." He nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. "Elaine's been talking, trying to stir the pot." I sighed, the frustration bubbling up again. "I figured as much. But we're not backing down." Mr. Jennings leaned forward, his voice low. "Just remember, Callie, sometimes the best revenge is living well. Don't let her steal your joy." His words stayed with me throughout the day, a reminder that Elaine's power was only as strong as we allowed it to be. But it was easier said than done when every move felt like it was being watched, judged. That evening, as I sat alone on the porch, a car pulled up. To my surprise, Amber stepped out, her expression determined. "Callie," she said, sitting beside me. "I heard what Elaine said. I just wanted to check on you." I smiled, grateful for her presence. "Thanks, Amber. It's been challenging." She nodded, her gaze steady. Elaine's not the only one who can play the game. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Amber hesitated, then leaned closer. "I might have some information that could help. Something Elaine wouldn't want getting out." It was a revelation, a twist that shifted the balance of power. I hadn't considered the possibility of having leverage against Elaine, but Amber's offer opened a door I hadn't dared to approach. As the evening wore on, we talked about possibilities, strategies, and what it would mean to take a stand. It was a turning point, a chance to reclaim control from Elaine's grasp. The theme of revenge had evolved once again, from passive endurance to active resistance. It was no longer about just surviving Elaine's interference, but about asserting our right to happiness and family on our terms. With Amber's help, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was still fraught with challenges, but I was ready to face them, armed with the knowledge that we weren't alone in this fight. Whatever happened next, we would meet it head-on together. The family gathering was set for Saturday. Elaine had insisted on hosting, as she often did, under the guise of mending fences. But I knew better. This was her stage, and she was the director, determined to control the narrative. Louis and I arrived early, the tension between us a silent undercurrent. We exchanged a glance, a mutual understanding that this could be the tipping point. We were armed with Amber's revelations, but the outcome was uncertain. Elaine welcomed us with her usual air of authority, her smile tight and her eyes appraising. "I'm glad you could make it," she said, her voice smooth but with an edge that set my nerves on edge. As the evening progressed, the room filled with family members, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. But beneath the surface, a storm brewed, waiting for the right moment to unleash. Dinner was a tense affair, conversations skirting around the elephant in the room. I could feel the weight of Elaine's gaze on me, a challenge unspoken but understood. Finally, as dessert was served, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "Elaine," I began, my voice steady but firm. "We need to talk about the rumors." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to us.
Elaine's expression didn't falter, but I caught the flicker of something, fear perhaps, in her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, Callie. I held her gaze, refusing to back down. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The lies about a miscarriage, the attempts to sabotage our adoption plans. A murmur rippled through the room, the tension crackling like static electricity. Louis placed a reassuring hand on my back, his support a solid presence. Elaine's mask slipped, her voice rising in defense. I only wanted what's best for my son, for this family, and spreading lies is your idea of what's best. I countered, my anger flaring. You can't control us, Elaine. We're not your puppets. The room was charged with a mix of shock and disbelief. Elaine's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, her grip on the family slipping. Louis stepped forward, his voice calm but resolute. Mom, we love you, but this has to stop. Callie and I are building a life together, and we need you to respect that. Elaine's eyes filled with tears, her vulnerability exposed for the first time. I just wanted to protect you, Louis. Protect me from what? He asked gently. From happiness? The silence that followed was heavy, the truth settling over us all. For a moment, it seemed like we had reached a turning point. But then Elaine's sister, always the opportunist, spoke up. Maybe Elaine's right, she said, her voice dripping with false concern. Maybe you should think twice about this adoption. It's a big step. The words were a gut punch, a reminder that Elaine wasn't alone in her campaign against us. The support I thought we had was crumbling, leaving us exposed and vulnerable. I felt the walls closing in, the weight of judgment and doubt pressing down on me. It was a moment of despair, the lowest point in this battle for autonomy and respect. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Amber standing by the door, her expression one of determination and defiance. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Callie and Louis deserve to be happy, and they deserve a family of their own, she said, her eyes locking onto Elaine's sister. And anyone who can't see that is blind to what really matters. Her words were a lifeline, pulling me back from the brink of hopelessness. It was a reminder that we weren't alone, that there were allies willing to stand with us against the tide. The room shifted, the balance of power tilting in our favor. Elaine's sister fell silent, her attempt to undermine us thwarted. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a sense of resolve settle over me. The path ahead was still fraught with challenges, but we had faced the storm and emerged stronger for it. The theme of revenge had transformed once more, from a desire for retribution to a quest for justice and truth. It was no longer about defeating Elaine, but about reclaiming our lives and our future. As we left Elaine's house, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, but I knew that with Louis and our newfound allies, we could face whatever came next together. The family gathering had been a turning point, but the real confrontation was yet to come. A week later, Elaine called another meeting at her house, claiming she wanted to discuss the future. I knew this was it, the moment where everything would come to a head. As Louis and I arrived, the tension was palpable. The family was already gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Elaine stood at the center, her posture commanding, but there was a vulnerability in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady but lacking its usual authority. "I've called you here because there are things that need to be addressed." I exchanged a glance with Louis, his eyes reflecting my own uncertainty. We had come prepared, but the unpredictability of the situation kept us on edge. Elaine turned to us, her gaze direct and unyielding. "Callie, Louis, I've made mistakes. I see that now. But I can't just let things go without understanding why you're making such drastic decisions." The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. I felt the familiar surge of frustration, but I knew this was a chance to finally lay everything bare. "Elaine," I said, stepping forward, my voice clear and unwavering. "Our decisions are our own. We want a family, but it has to be on our terms, not yours." She flinched but held her ground. "I just don't want you to regret anything. Family is everything, and I thought Amber could help you see that." Amber, who had been standing quietly to the side, stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Elaine, I can't be a part of this. Louis and Callie have made their choice, and it's time you respected that." Elaine's eyes widened, the realization dawning that her last ally was slipping away. "Amber, No," Amber interrupted, her voice firm. "I won't be used as a pawn in this. I care about both of you, but this has to stop." The room was electric with tension, the air thick with the unspoken truths that had been simmering beneath the surface. Elaine's facade was crumbling, and in that moment,
I saw not just the antagonist of my story, but a woman struggling against her own insecurities and fears. Louis took my hand, his grip steadying. "Mom, we love you, but this isn't about you. It's about us and the life we're building together." Elaine's shoulders slumped, the fight leaving her eyes. "I just wanted to protect you," she whispered, her voice breaking. I stepped closer, my resolve softening. "We know, but your protection felt like control. We need to make our own mistakes, find our own way." The silence that followed was heavy, but it was a silence filled with possibility, a chance for healing and understanding. Then, unexpectedly, Mr. Jennings cleared his throat, drawing the room's attention. "Elaine, sometimes letting go is the greatest act of love. You've raised a good son. Trust him." His words cut through the tension, a reminder that love sometimes meant stepping back, allowing others to forge their own paths. Elaine nodded slowly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I see that now. I'm sorry for everything." The apology hung in the air, a tentative bridge between past grievances and future reconciliation. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. As the gathering broke up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The confrontation had been cathartic, a chance to finally face the core themes of our journey: revenge, justice, and ultimately forgiveness. Elaine approached us, her expression tentative but sincere. "I hope you can forgive me. I still have a lot to learn." Louis smiled, his arm around my waist. "We all do, Mom." As we left, hand in hand, I realized that the path ahead was still uncertain, but it was one we would navigate together, with the support of those who truly mattered. The climax had brought us face to face with the heart of our struggle, and while the road to healing would be long, it was one we were ready to embark on, together. The adoption process was a whirlwind of paperwork and anticipation, a journey that tested our patience and resolve. But finally, the day arrived when we welcomed a beautiful little girl into our lives. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I felt a surge of love and completeness that made every struggle worthwhile. Louis and I stood in our living room, surrounded by friends and family who had supported us through the storm. Amber was there, her presence a reminder of unexpected allies and the strength of friendship. Even Elaine had come, standing quietly at the edge of the room, her expression a mix of pride and humility. As we celebrated, I caught Elaine's eye across the room. She approached slowly, her steps tentative. "Callie," she began, her voice soft. "Thank you for letting me be here." I nodded, the past months of tension and conflict simmering beneath the surface. "I'm glad you came." Elaine glanced at the baby in my arms, her eyes softening. "She's beautiful. You're both going to be amazing parents." There was a sincerity in her words that hadn't been there before, a vulnerability that hinted at change. I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps this could be a new beginning for all of us. Later, as the guests began to leave, Elaine lingered, her expression contemplative. "Callie, I want to give you something," she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a letter, the paper worn and the ink slightly smudged. I glanced at Elaine, a question in my eyes. "It's my story," she explained, her voice tinged with emotion. "I thought it might help you understand why I was the way I was." I nodded, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Elaine." That night, after everyone had left and our daughter was asleep, Louis and I sat together, reading Elaine's letter. It was a heartfelt account of her own struggles with infertility, the pressure she had faced, and the fear of losing her family. The letter was a revelation, a glimpse into the pain and insecurity that had driven Elaine's actions. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it offered a new perspective, a chance to understand and perhaps forgive. As I folded the letter, I felt a sense of closure, a resolution to the conflict that had once seemed insurmountable. Elaine's journey was her own, but it had intersected with ours in ways that had shaped us all. In the days that followed, I returned to my dental practice, rediscovering my passion and purpose. The challenges of the past had strengthened my resolve, and I embraced my role as a mother with newfound confidence. Elaine's relationship with us remained a work in progress, but we had set boundaries, prioritizing our family's peace and happiness. It was a delicate balance, but one we were committed to maintaining. One afternoon, as I watched our daughter play in the garden, I felt a sense of contentment and gratitude. The journey had been tumultuous, but it had led us to this moment, a testament to resilience and the power of love. As Louis joined me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders, I reflected on the themes that had defined our path: revenge, justice, and ultimately, forgiveness. Our story wasn't just about overcoming adversity, but about finding strength in vulnerability and the courage to forge our own path. The resolution was not without its complexities. Elaine's letter had left lingering questions about the nature of forgiveness and the possibility of rebuilding bridges. But I realized that some answers might never be clear-cut, and that was okay. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our home, I felt a sense of peace. Our journey was ongoing, but we faced it together, armed with the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. In the end, it wasn't just about finding justice or exacting revenge, but about healing and embracing the messy, beautiful reality of family. And in that, I found a resolution that was both satisfying and profound.